That was really weird. If you tell me what I'm wrong about and you explain why I'm wrong and whatnot, like I'm very much okay with being wrong. That's how I learn. That's how I got where I am right now, where, I grew up in the same environment you did. I was told I'm not allowed to talk about Israel and that I have to like respect and almost bow down to I grew up in that same thing, and the Jews absolutely control the narrative, and it doesn't even matter like what you're talking about, what you're looking at. Just it was a real eye-opening thing for me. I think a lot of us truthers. Well, that's weird. Today the deer's gone. I said it yesterday. Today's gone. A lot of us truthers, sort of like a Bible video for us, is zeitgeist. And one of the things that I think it was it might have been, it was either last year or the year before. I did an experiment where I went back and watched some of the movies that I always sort of refer to, and they're always like in the back of my mind, and they're the movies that I would tell people to watch if they were asking questions, things like that. And two of the movies are 200 Proofs the Earth is Not a Spinning Ball, and A Rich Man's Trick. That's what it was. And I can't remember which one I watched first. It might have been I think it was 200 Proofs was first. And I was like, all right, yeah, 200 Proofs still stands up. However many years later, I still agree with most of what it said. I think it maybe could be a little bit shorter, but I think he was trying to get to the number 200, so he put in some stuff that maybe didn't need to be there, but they still make a good point, right? And then I watched A Rich Man's Trick, and what I noticed is that there's like one part, I don't know, I don't remember. Rich Man's Trick was what I thought was one of the greatest ones ever made. First of all, it starts off like, again, I'm watching this with 40 plus year old eyes, super skeptical eyes. I hate Israel and the Jews eyes. Like, I'm seeing things differently now. So when I'm watching it, they're saying every video you've ever seen about, and the movie's called A Rich Man's Trick, JFK to 9/11. And it was made by an Englishman, I believe. And it starts off by saying every video, every movie, everything you've ever seen, especially on YouTube and stuff like that, these are all CIA created movies. And every single person is more than likely a plant, and like it just, it's interesting that that's how it decided to start off, by telling us that everything's fake, but this one's not fake. Everything else is fake, but this one's not. It was real kind of like, I'm surprised I didn't notice that the first time. But, the first time I saw that movie, I was in my early 30s. Maybe even earlier than that. I don't know. But I noticed that there's that they tell us it's fake. And then at some point, Israel comes up and the Jews come up or something. And At some point, the movie says something like Israel has the right to defend itself or something like that. And then I sort of stepped back and I thought about it. And it's like, and immediately that's going to turn me off. Along with the initial part. And then that was, there were more things that I saw. But at the same time, I believe Zeitgeist released its 4th installment, like 2019 or 20 or something like that. I don't even remember. Maybe 21. I don't even remember. But I was so excited. Like, Zeitgeist was one of my first. Like there was Loose Change and there was a few things out at the same time as Zeitgeist, but Zeitgeist just felt a little different. And Zeitgeist absolutely dealt with religion and stuff. And so I was real interested in what it was saying. But then I watched part 4, and like immediately I noticed that it's all Jews. Felds and Feldmans and Greenbergs and, all those other dumb Jew names. That's who's presenting all of the information in Zeitgeist. And immediately, I mean, I couldn't even watch the whole thing. I literally turned it off because I was just like, dude, if every single person in this is Jewish, then this is Jew propaganda, and I'm not interested. And that's one of the harder things to do, right? It's one of the harder things to scrutinize and
You think our neighbor's bad?
Pull apart with the things you like. It's easy to do it with things you hate. But when it's the things you like, that's a whole different challenge. What now?
You think our neighbor sucks? She doesn't know what to do. She keeps calling the police. They can't do anything.
And let's deal with anything this 20 years we have not. She needs help. Please can she's under private talk to he just hides in the house.
In a couple of the videos, he comes out and tells her to stop, and she screams at him. He goes back in the house. It's so bad.
So if she got 3 pulled, then they have a lawsuit.
Oh, God, I didn't get her on video. There, keep going.
I'd kill her. I'd fucking kill her.
Yeah, but what is they doing to make her do this?
Her son came and apologized to the neighbors. It said, yeah, she did this to the people where we lived.
She's clearly drunk.
She's drunk. You can see her.
The dark one, you can't really tell. I don't know if she's got a chainsaw.
I mean, when our neighbors did shit like this, what I did was drive up into their driveway at 6 a.m. and just lay on the horn. Remember? Remember when the asshole, when what's his name?
Living here?
No, who was the guy? Ed. When Ed was hanging with the boys and they would be partying all night and doing fireworks and shit. So when I knew they'd party real late and be real hungover and shitty in the morning, I'd just go drive in their driveway and lay on the horn. 5, 6 in the morning. And they'd come out, what the fuck, dude? I mean, look, isn't this funny? Isn't this fun when we do stuff like this? When we purposefully make noise to keep people awake, isn't this fun?
She goes on her deck in one of the last videos, and she's just pounding on a pan facing the woman's house. Just pounding on. Her husband comes out, stop it. But she keeps calling the police, and they're like, we can't do anything if she's mentally ill. It's like, yeah, you can. A mental wellness check?
Fuck yeah. And she's drunk.
And quiet enjoyment, the city can issue. So that's what I said. City can issue citations. If her husband has to start paying for her dumbass, maybe
Right.
he'll
I don't
intervene.
understand why this, if she's violating noise ordinances. Like if she was a black teenager, it would be a huge issue.
She blows the air horn at the neighbor's dogs to make the dogs bark, and then she laughs about it. And she does it over and over. One of the videos is like 10 minutes of just her doing the air horn, making the poor woman's dogs bark. For no reason.
I mean, two can play that game.
Yeah, but then that gets really ugly.
It's already pretty ugly.
The whole neighborhood.
Yeah, well, but you have to make it so. I don't give a shit. I don't know why I'm even talking about this. This is my wife getting me talking about stupid shit that I don't give a fuck about.
I mean, this is daily life. That's shit that people have to actually deal
Right,
with.
and so what that points to is clearly this woman has issues that our society isn't willing to address.
Our mental health system's so fucking broken. So broken.
Yeah, but so is our justice system. I mean, to say this woman has mental health issues because she's a bitch, that's not mental health issues. That's just her being a bitch and then hiding behind mental health issues. But, like I say, what's your distraction? What keeps you from looking at the truth and everything? So many of you are Trump supporters or Harris supporters. So many of you fall for the fucking... Like, Trump is one of the greatest distractions they've ever given us. Because if you love Trump, you are totally distracted and totally, in this goofy-ass distraction bullshit world. And if you hate Trump, it's like just as much. You're putting just as much energy into your hatred of Trump. Either way, you're focused on that idiot like he fucking matters. He doesn't matter. He's the manager of the McDonald's, man. That's all the president is. They're the manager of the McDonald's. And until we understand that and look at it for what it is, are we going to keep falling for it? I mean, I don't know. I love how my feed keeps going 2 people watching, 6 people watching, 2 people watching, 4 people watching. Weird how that shit works. If you're watching this, tell me what I'm wrong about. I don't care if people come in here and pat me on the back and tell me, oh, I agree with most of the things you say. As soon as you say something like that, I'm going to say, okay, well, most isn't all, so what are the things you disagree with? That's all I care about. I want to be a better person. I want to be the best me I can be. So if I'm wrong about something, I want to fix it. Now, please don't be arrogant enough to think that just because you say it means I'm going to be like, oh, well, I guess I'm wrong. Understand, I'm probably going to have something else to say, but that's okay. Like, that's what a discussion is. That's how we get to the bottom of things. I don't know, guys. I'm at this weird place where Tartaria, bro, you're into it. Like, that's why Tartaria is such a fantastic distraction, right? Because Tartaria is this thing that is obviously true. Like my wife has a hard time with it because in her mind, it's like if Tartaria was real, why didn't we learn about it? I mean, what are you talking about? A big land, Russia? It's Russia, and it's this huge empire. Why didn't we learn about it in school? And that's sort of the exact thing. There are maps, there are charters, there's documentation, there's all sorts of stuff that proves that Tartaria is at least in the narrative that we're given. They didn't remove it from the narrative, and that's for me. Like if you're in it, once you start to understand and sort of just accept the idea that there was a reset, you understand this idea that Tartaria probably existed or something like it. You have to understand that all of this shit before and after especially before, is probably bullshit. So that includes all of your Greek stuff, all your Roman stuff, all your religious stuff, your Bible, your all that shit. If there and James just said if there have been multiple resets, then there's definitely all that shit's not real. And the thing about it is, the more you look into the history, I've said this for a long time now, but the more you look into things, the dumber you're going to sound. The more you know, the dumber you sound. If you know like the official explanation as to how stars and galaxies and shit like that are formed, you don't realize it, but you sound like a real big dumbass. The ancient Greeks obviously could not have built that shit. None of the narrative that we're told matches up. Right? None of the narrative, like, we're sort of told that it's like these donkey people on horsebacks and shit like that. My lunch break says the donkey company or whatever. Like, those people weren't building it. So clearly the narrative isn't real. But for me, I think it's all ChatGPT. I think ChatGPT is the smoking gun, so to speak. Like, for the longest time, I always, I've been questioning the historical narrative for the longest. I don't believe in slavery. I don't believe in the Native American genocide. I barely believe, like, the Civil War, all that shit. It's all weird and phony. And there's all these little, I call it bag of sand tells. They're these bag of sand moments. And what that is in the movie The 40-Year-Old Virgin, when everybody figures out he's a virgin, it's because he says a titty feels like a bag of sand. And somebody that hasn't felt a titty might think, yeah, that sounds reasonable. But somebody that's had experience with titties knows that's not at all accurate. And there are these little giveaways that tell you things. So when they tell you that all of the wars that existed, basically in the United States and pretty much everywhere else, you would have the 1st Battalion line up in a row and then run towards the gunfire. And more than likely, they'd get mowed down. 2nd Battalion, 3rd Battalion. But eventually, they're either going to tire or they're going to run out of ammo or whatever it is. And the 6th, 7th, 10th, 20th Battalion, they're going to be able to make it into wherever they need to go. And that's how most wars were fought and won for most of the story. Now, that's utter bullshit. Like, how many of you would watch the 1st Battalion, 2nd, 3rd Battalion get mowed down and be like, all right, I'm the 4th Battalion. I got to run out there with my gun. Like, who's going to do that? Who's not going to think, hey, what if we don't wear bright red and walk? Why don't we, like, flank them? And why don't we do... And as we're told, guerrilla warfare tactics didn't really exist until Vietnam. Like, what do you come on. Come on. Do you know concave Earth? I know of it. I don't believe it. Literally, imperfect model exists provided by the authorities. Well, to me, and I know this might not be the popular opinion, but to me, I think we're in some sort of reality-based TV show. It's for a version of us, a much more advanced version of us. Now, to say that version of us is, I don't even know, what are we, 50 years, 100 years from being able to build a dome thing that the people inside don't know they're in? Go to Walmart right now, go to the TV section, and you'll see those slightly curved screen TVs that literally look like you're looking out of a fucking window. Actually, kind of better than looking out of a window. And you can get that bitch for like $300. You don't think that in 50, 100, 200, 500, 1,000 years, we're not going to be able to use that same technology to build a dome that's indestructible to the things down below? Do you know how like we don't, but we're probably pretty close if we don't already have it to invisible technology. We're probably pretty close to shrinking in technology, making things shrink and get bigger and stuff. We're probably pretty close to all that shit. So, I mean, I would 1,000 years from now, 5,000 years from now, like I would imagine humans are gonna have that shit figured out. And to have, tabletop domes, multiple tabletop domes, different time periods, like Legoland told us. And these are multiple, they're not TV shows, they're like networks. And you can click into the Earth network and then watch any one of the 1,000 channels, 10,000 channels available. You can watch any of the stars or any of us regular goyim if that's what you want to do, because I would imagine there's probably invisible cameras everywhere. And I know that sounds crazy to some people. But to me, when you go, okay, so we're either the product of a big bang that so everything in the universe. I mean, I always say, just stand where you are right now and spin in a circle, right? And everything you can see, times that by a giggity fulfillion, and all of that was compacted down into something the size of a match head that was being pulled into itself by gravity so hard that it exploded. And then with that explosion, just spewed out matter and debris and all of the shit in the universe. Now, this is the part I never ever get answers to. And this part goes with both theories that we're allowed to accept. Like the science Big Bang theory is one we're allowed to accept, and the Jesus theory is the one we're allowed to accept. And with both of these, my question is always, so was the match head inside the warehouse? Like, was it this big empty warehouse kind of thing and the match head and all the stuff? Or was the black stuff and the edge of the universe and was that inside the match head as well? And then if that's the case, what was it in? Was it just like on a white piece of paper or some shit? How can you have a nothing that makes something? And that goes for God too. Did God like appear in the black empty warehouse? Or how does that work? And Christians and shit, they always say shit like, well, there is no before God. Well, that doesn't make any sense. You're talking about nothing making everything. And both of those theories, the core to both of those theories is that nothing created everything. The Big Bang shot out a bunch of debris that made magical gravity pockets that swirled and swirled and swirled and swirled, pulling debris into themselves in the vacuum of space. It's a vacuum. It's an empty vacuum where everything just floats, but these gravity pockets swirled everything into clumps. Those clumps then light themselves on fire in the oxygenless space, light themselves on fire that burn forever, for the most part, I mean, at least from our perspective. And then around those fire clumps, more gravity pockets exist, and they swirl and swirl and swirl, and they pull more debris in, and that makes planets. Some of the planets, the inside of the planets lights itself on fire. But then, like on our planet, the outside turns to rock and we have water and life and shit. Submivious zones. If you're in the submivious zone, then you can then the planet can have water and the conditions necessary to survive. We know this. And and then the other planets are gas giants, whatever the fuck that means. I thought a gas giant meant it was like gaseous and but then when they showed me the comet that supposedly flew into Jupiter, sure didn't look like a gas giant to me. But then, on Earth, water just came somehow, and then one cell turned to two cells turned to four cells. That eventually made a fish. The fish climbed out of the water, grew legs, grew lungs, turned into a monkey. The monkey turned into us, and now we learned how to fly in the 1900s, or around 1900 or so. And by 1960, we can go to the moon. And 100 years later, we know how the universe was created from the Big Bang. We couldn't even fly 100 years ago. Well, we had just started flying, but by now we know all the secrets. You know how stupid that shit is? All right, let me go back to what you were saying. Sorry. A pre-coded VR inside a cell. Yeah, I don't think that's what it is. See, I refuse to accept that I'm not real. Like, if you're cool with accepting that you're not real and that you are just part of a virtual program or something like that, I think that's what the Matrix was telling us, right? Like the whole Matrix idea of, like, I think one of the key things is like the code, you know? In the Matrix, it's that raining numbers code, and that's a metaphor. It's not like an actual code. When they say after a while you don't even see it anymore, they're talking about this hidden code, this Jewish conspiracy, this thing that's right in front of you that you're not seeing. Oh, let's see. Cellular cosmology, ancient concept. Yeah, I don't know. Outer space is water. The stars are in water, shine by soul luminescence. I mean, again, you're talking about stuff that you've been told by who? And how did they figure it out? A lot of that ancient shit, we just have to rely on being told. Tartaria is definitely my favorite distraction. At least it's interesting. It absolutely is. Ego, that's your flaw. You are an avatar. See, this is where, again, you're just acknowledging that you're well programmed, right? Because ego's not a bad thing. Ego's a great thing. Your ignorance is that you're using the wrong words. What you mean to say is arrogance. You know, because you're trying to say that I'm being arrogant. But ego is a good thing. Having an ego, knowing what you're good at, and doing that, that's what we all should do. You know, I always use the same example, but if I made videos every day of me playing basketball, and you guys saw me for years getting better and better and better and better, and then I said, I bet I could beat anybody watching me in basketball, that's not arrogance, that's confidence. I've worked very hard to get to that point, and now I'm confident that I can beat anybody. Now, on the other hand, if any of you watching me, sitting on your ass or going to work or doing whatever, well, I played basketball in high school 20 years ago, so I think I could beat you, the guy I've been watching get better. I could just come off the couch and beat you. That's the arrogance that we're always talking about. That's the big problem, the arrogance that people, you know, get mixed up on. But it's that ignorance where we, you know, the ego. You're starting to talk like you got Christian programming. Because Christianity, the funniest thing about Christianity is telling you that being a good Christian and believing in God is the absence of ego, when it's the exact opposite. If you think that the God of the universe that makes the universe work, breathes life into babies and gives little kids cancer, if you think that God is sitting there listening to your prayers and then doing something about it, that's an arrogance I can't even begin to imagine. Let's see. You are an avatar. Again, says who? You are an avatar inside the pre-coded concave earth. Boy, you sound awful like sure of yourself. And I bet you don't even know why. When I ask you where you got this information from, are you going to know? I know you didn't come up with it. I know that's not your thoughts. I know other people have talked about the TV show theory before, but I don't know who they are. That whole TV show thing is my own deduction after years and years of looking into all this stuff. But the whole concave Earth, and it doesn't even make so. So you think we're still in a ball. It's still a ball, and is it flying through space? But it's a ball, and now we're on the inside of the ball. When it's the same thing, it's just you're just talking about something in a weird way. To me, the idea of a dome structure that a more advanced version of us built is very plausible. It's something that you can easily comprehend if you let yourself, because we're almost there. The concave Earth, again, are we talking about like a planet flying through a solar system, but we're just on the inside of it? That's just weird. Oh, let's see. Dude, you are programmed. I know more than you. Oh, that's funny. I am your teacher. Humble yourself. So I'm supposed to humble myself to somebody who is clearly about as arrogant as it gets. Yep. Your arrogance is thinking you know everything. Get off the dope, dude. Anytime somebody starts talking about, smoking pot as being this bad, if I'm so negatively affected by the dope, then you should be able to really put me in my place. It shouldn't be that difficult for you to make a good point, and I go, whoa, man, I'm like stoned, like totally typical stone, and whoa, man, like that would be how that works, but it doesn't. There is no one God. Nobody thinks there's one God. All my thoughts stationary. Yep, you're the first one to talk about a concave Earth. That's for damn sure. Walking in circles, sniffing, talking nonsense. Yep. And then I just blew my nose. So, as a 45-year-old person who's done plenty of drugs in my life, I know the one thing you don't do is blow the drugs out of your nose. So, again, but this is, whenever somebody starts doing this, it's that desperation. Because what I'm saying is affecting them. It's making it so they're like, hey, wait a minute, I believe something differently, but I can't override what this dude's saying. So I'm mad about it, and I have to say something. So I'm gonna say this, and they just it's like this works this way all the time. Maybe you could look at the model. Maybe I could, or maybe I have. Everything that. The thing about like the arrogant people, the average Christian and whatnot, they always act like if you talk about Christianity not being real or whatever the idea is not being real, they always just assume you don't know about it. But the thing is, nobody is anti-Christian, anti-religion because they haven't learned enough. They've learned more than you have, and they realize what shit it is. And they can't just believe in the shit anymore. James, you know nothing as well, but Brian Evans, he knows everything. I mean, the song from Steve Christ's documentary is really catchy. You were sold a lie all this time. You've been on the inside. Well, I mean, again, the only thing different between a concave Earth and a dome is that you believe it's a ball that, again, I don't understand. Is it flying through space? What's going on? Why are we on the inside of the ball? You're saying it's the whole circle. I'm saying it's just half a circle. Weed is good. Praise be to whatever the fuck that is. 56. You haven't. Don't lie. Oh my god. I don't even know what the hell this dude's talking about. See, the thing about all of this stuff that you love to get, like, this is where, again, your arrogance it comes into play. Because you think you know stuff. You know, my whole TV show theory is just that. It's a theory. It's me trying to make sense of what I've been given. But I know the truth. The truth is, unless we, Goyim, get together and overthrow the Jews that control our narrative, it really doesn't matter what we're talking about. That's why it's all a distraction. That's what people aren't understanding when it comes to the term distraction. Whether it's Trump, whether it's Tartaria, whether it's the pedophile church, you know, the pedophile Hollyweird, you know, any of that stuff. It doesn't matter. We can talk about it all day, but we're only talking about the information that we've gleaned from whatever they've, you know, whatever sources we've come across that they've allowed to exist. That's it. You know, all the conspiracies and all that shit, it's the stuff that's allowed to exist. When they don't want something to exist, it doesn't. Look what they did to the Black Panther Party. You know, of course, it came back in the, you know, later on bullshit version of it. But the original Black Panthers, that shit got squashed. And they didn't want it. That's what they do. You know, they control our narrative, and everything that we sit here and we argue about, that's what they want us to do. As long as we're arguing about something we can't prove, especially something from the past. That's why Tartaria is the best one. Because it's obviously true. Every time you look into anything, you get that cookie, you know? You get that little sweet treat, that reassurance that you were right to begin with. Because you go looking at the ChatGPT narrative, and it's you know, this place was destroyed by a fire, was built 2 years later, was destroyed by a fire. Like, you know, as soon as you start looking into the Tartaria stuff and you start seeing it, you'll see it everywhere. And you just, oh, okay. And you get that instant gratification, that validation every time you look. Every time. That's why Tartaria is such a good distraction. Because you know it's true. I mean, you know, go to any major downtown and look around and see all the buildings and be like, who the fuck built these? Who built these churches? Who built these castles? We don't fucking know. And according to the narrative, you know, we don't know. All the castles, who built all the pyramids and shit, we don't know. We have an idea, but that information was lost during the Dark Ages. Get the fuck out of here. Yet we still have an accurate record of what happened in 231 BC, according to the Jews. Concave Earth has the same model as an apple. We are on the inside of the rind. That doesn't make any sense. In what? What? We're on the inside of the rind. So what's the apple? What's in the apple? What's on the outside of the rind? Gravity is electromagnetic dipole pressure. No. Gravity isn't real. Gravity is density and buoyancy. That's how everything that is attributed to gravity is attributed to density and buoyancy. Literally, that's it. Gravity is not real. You want me? You know how I can disprove gravity? I can do it for you guys right now. Ready? I'm going to disprove gravity. There you go. You see that? There's nothing pulling my hair. No force is pulling my hair down towards the center of the earth. And nope. And if you say static, then you're just stupid. Because you're saying that the force that, like, gravity would have to be the most intelligent force to ever exist. Right? Because gravity would be this thing that knows exactly how much pressure to put on the oceans and lakes and shit to keep them from flying off the spinning ball going 1,000 miles per hour, while it's still knows how to let the seedling float throughout the wind. The seedling, the cotton ball, the bird, the giant 747 jet. Gravity is bullshit. Gravity's not real. Density buoyancy. Oh. Pressure pushes out from the seeds. Oh, now we're in a whole apple dynamic, huh? Gravity is electromagnetic etheric drift. Yeah, okay. That's yep. I knew he would say it. See, the thing is, I know what you're gonna say before you say it. Because you're talking about nonsense. It's not static. How could static overpower the gravity that knows how to pull the oceans to hold the oceans on the spinning ball? Gravity is not real. And see, this is this is just another one of those things where we're sitting here arguing because your arrogance is tremendous. And you think you know because you were told to know. You know, the apple fell on and hit Isaac Newton in the head. And he was like, gravity, duh. Not that the apple is heavier than the earth around it, or than the air around it, so it fell. Like, do you know when you look up, why doesn't the ISS fall to the earth? It will immediately, the first thing that pops up is the question on Quora, Quora, I don't know how you say that, Quora. But then it takes you to what the fuck was it? Let's see, I'll just have to look it up. Why doesn't the ISS fall to Earth? All right. First thing that pops up is the Quora question, like I just said. You've got these weird things. I don't know what these are. First thing that comes up is the Quora question. There's the conversation, curious kids. Reddit. But where's the NASA? What is microgravity? See, again, it's like it's really weird how you can't just find this answer. So back to the Quora thing, and so when you look into this, it doesn't give you this. The ISS is in fact falling towards the Earth, just as you wondered. So why doesn't it run into the ground? The answer is very high horizontal velocity. They say the ISS is traveling at 17,500 miles per hour. Because we have jets that can go that fast. Right? Like but when you look into like a more detailed version of the answer, it starts with, well, Isaac Newton theorized that if you shot a cannonball from the top of a mountain with enough force and the blah blah, it'll go. That's the dumbest thing. Isaac Newton said that the reason cannonballs hit the ground is because of gravity. Do you know how stupid that is? Like, I'm not a scientist, right? I'm just a regular guy. But it's not gravity that's making the cannonball come down to the ground. The cannonball is super heavy. And there's only so much thrust behind said cannonball. Once the thrust runs out, the cannonball is going to fall because it's heavy. Like, the fact that they try to say that that's the reason the cannonball comes down is because of gravity, that is insulting. You should be mad. You should be angry about this. You are too stubborn to see. Yep, you're right. I am too stubborn to just believe some dude in the comments on the YouTube video who's saying the same shit I'm easily debunking. You're right. You can't believe that someone is schooling you. Yep, you're right. So everything I think, I just came up with it. it wasn't because I read a bunch of shit and I learned a bunch of shit. It's because I was like, hey, I think blah, 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 blah. For no reason whatsoever. That's what I think. You know nothing about electromagnetism. Yep. I'm sure you know plenty. I am teaching you. I am a more perfect version of you, bruh. He typed out bruh at the end of that. You couldn't have done that more perfectly, dude. Seriously, that was amazing. I am a much more perfect version of you, bruh. Oh, this guy. And he's apparently like 60 something. uh, I was a flat earther 10 years ago. Then I saw a concave. Oh, so what you're saying is you just believe the next thing that's presented to you? Somebody says this, you believe this. Then somebody presents you with some new shiny keys. And you're like, that's the thing. I'm there now. And then the new shiny keys come in. Now, that's what you do. The cannonball is being pressed into the earth. No, it's not, you doofus. Are you kidding me? Do you know how stupid that is? The cannonball is being pressed into the earth. It's not that the cannonball weighs like 20 pounds. Nah, that has nothing to do with it. It's the magical forces that can't be fucking proven or seen, or they're theoretical. Yep. It's the pressing. It's not pulling because we're in a concave. So now it's pulling, and that's the opposite of gravity. The gravity was pulling it into the earth. The concave is pushing it. It has nothing to do with the weight and the thrust because I'm a stubborn idiot. Get the fuck out of here. Hey, from UK, you came up on my feed, so thought I'd join. I appreciate you being here. Good to see you. Look at dipole, radio, electromag. See, when you start talking about shit that I gotta start looking into and then believing most of the time, we don't even know who came up with those theories. Or if we do, they're just some Jews. Just more and more Jews. Sitting around the theoretical physicist. Wouldn't that be great to be a theoretical physicist? What do you do for a living? Oh, well, I'm a theoretical physicist. And they're like, oh my God, you must be really smart. Yeah, I sit around and I'm like, hey, what if it's like there's a planet, there's a moon, and that moon, it rains methane diamonds. Mm-hmm. And then everybody's like, oh, fuck yeah. And then someone like me is like, hey, question. Shouldn't that moon be fucking huge? I mean, methane diamonds ain't going anywhere, right? Right? I didn't know what a methane diamond is, but I would imagine, if all the rain never went anywhere, we'd be swimming. So if we're talking about diamonds, that bitch is getting bigger by the year. It rains methane diamonds. That is literally what they say about one of the moons out there. That it rains methane diamonds.
Why aren't we harvesting them and selling them?
Because we can't get there yet, duh. But we will soon. We will, and we'll be having hotels up in space where you can spend the night in a hotel.
Does God cry on that planet too, and that's why it rains, but he cries diamonds on that planet?
You're so stupid. God has nothing to do with the rain. That's Mother Nature. Come on. You got your characters wrong. Dumb girl. I swear to God, man. God was right about you. Oh, listen to this guy. Pushed from the center. You're not smarter. You're not smart enough. Yep. SMART. I should ask Kevin Wheeler. You said you're not smart enough. And then the next line, you typed X Kevin Wheeler, AXE. Dude, stop it. Thoughts on Bermuda Triangle? Was discussing it with my dad recently. When it comes to Bermuda Triangle, literally all I know is stories I'm told. I have no idea. I don't know how legitimate that is. I don't know if that's some boogeyman fairy tale that they tell us. I don't fucking know. For all we know, that could be, one of the control center areas where, the outside people meet with the inside people, and anything that gets close gets shot to pieces. I don't know. Lots of stuff like that. So when it comes to the Bermuda Triangle, you and I will never know the truth about the Bermuda Triangle until we overthrow the Jews that control our narrative. And that's going to be the standard response from me when it comes to any of this shit. I'm pretty sure about the whole space thing. Like, I used to love space. That's why I know there's a moon that rains fucking methane diamonds. I used to watch all the space documentaries I could. I've always been just voracious when it comes to knowledge. I just want to know more. I want to be the smartest guy in the room. I want to be able to say something about anything. And so I used to watch everything I could about space because I thought it was interesting. I remember back in like 2009 or something when they were talking about we were about to send people to Mars. We're gonna send people to Mars. It's gonna be a one-way trip, but we're gonna go colonize Mars. And would you do that? Would you sign up? And I remember thinking like I would do that because, even though my wife and my kids would grow up without me, can you imagine how proud they'd be to know their dad was like one of the colonizers of Mars? Like I literally had that conversation with myself. When I went into the first thing I saw was Under the Dome by Mark Sergeant Mark. And I went into it thinking, all right, I'm so sick of all this dumb flat earth nonsense. I'm going to see whatever points they make. And I believe myself to be smart enough to debunk this shit. And within about 10 minutes, I was like, uh-oh. Uh-oh, I don't think I live on a ball anymore. Like, it was that quick. It was the thing about watching Under the Dome, other than a lot of the religious bullshit, was, and that's in flat earth in general, is it's like it's validating, right? It's like most of the points that are made and whatever, there's stuff you already sort of thought about, or you already knew about, or you already questioned. When they're talking about the earth is this jello mold of outer crust, inner crust, outer mantle, inner mantle, outer core, all that shit. And then you find out, well, they can only drill 8 miles down. You go, yeah, how do they fucking know that shit? Like, it just starts dawning on you that the narrative you're given, not only is it stupid, these people sure did seemingly come up with it quickly. We were basically the same horseback riding shitbags, according to history, for all of it, until the last 100 years or so. And then we just figured everything out. And so, when it comes to a lot of the stuff, again, it really just comes down to the Jews control the narrative, and they keep giving us all these distractions to keep us from focusing on them. They don't care what we talk about. They don't care what conspiracies we talk about. One, because they give us all the information we talk about anyway. And two, they know that it can't go anywhere. Most of the things that you and I or all of us will argue about, especially when it comes to religion and shit, is stuff from the past. Is stuff we can't prove. We can't know. And no matter what, we can't change it. We can't do anything about it. So why are we sitting here focused on it? It's dumb. We should be focused on what's going on right now. And what's happening right now is a genocide. Now, if you're too selfish and all that shit to care because it doesn't directly involve you, you and I are in different places. I'm not Palestinian. I'm not Middle Eastern. I'm not Christian. I'm not Muslim. I'm not even free Palestine. I don't even believe in free Palestine. Because free Palestine just means what? Some Christian or Muslim monarch takes over? That's fucking stupid. And free Palestine is only like, yesterday even at this point. I've said it since October 7th. I've been saying it. Maybe even further. Actually, definitely before that. But it's not free Palestine because Lebanon is next. Once they kill all the Palestinians, it's the Israel murder boner that we need to address. And once they kill all the Palestinians, they're gonna kill the Lebanese and then the Syrians and the Iranians and who knows. And now you're seeing it happen. Is everybody going to change their profile pictures to Lebanese flags, or what? Oh, now it's Hezbollah. It was Hamas, but now it's Hezbollah. It's fucking stupid, man. Outer space is water, capital letters. That's what you say. That's what you think. Sure, I guess. Okay, so what's the water in? Is it just endless water? Is it like that one Mario level where if you jump through the tube and you do it the wrong way, you go into like the negative whatever and then you just swim till you run out of time? Is that what you're talking about? It's just silly, man. It's silly. You only ask questions to the point where it makes you comfortable. And then once you get to that point, you go, okay, I'm done asking questions. I'm not going to ask anymore. Like, it's weird. Inside the cell, concentric glass firmaments. Oh, yeah. Okay. Now we're getting more into that biblical bullshit. Getting back to that firmament. My lady likes your POV. I think you're mistaking her laughing at you as liking what you're saying, because she's laughing at you. Yeah. My dad thinks it has to do with the airflow and pilots get confused. By the time they realize they've gone wrong, fuel runs out. I mean, I think when it comes to the Bermuda Triangle, if it was something, then wouldn't it be something like all the time? Aren't there? I don't know. I don't know enough about it. And like I say, it just seems like a big dumb distraction. At the end of the day, how is that going to affect anything? What do I care? What does the Bermuda Triangle matter to me? Especially when you look at it in comparison to the genocide that's happening right now.
I mean, unless you're a pirate. If you're a pirate, then I would probably use that shit to my advantage.
Well, I am sometimes. What is with flatty dome people and the God of the Bible? It's flat, there's a dome, therefore omnipotent, omnipresent, jealous, loving, circumcision, demanding creator. We can have flat without God. Well, see, that's the thing is, that was always my hesitation in venturing into the flat earth, because I didn't want it to be right. I somehow knew it was, and actually, I believe I saw it one time. So it was like early 2000s. I was up on a mountain in Northern California. I was all wasted, and I got up to pee at like 3 a.m, and I looked up, and I could see what was a star, and it was just going like this. But it was staying within a perimeter like this, but it was just going crazy. And I remember thinking, like, if that's a UFO, anything inside of it's getting scrambled. What the fuck is going on? So I went and I woke up. Everybody that was there was my friend and his family, and like there were a bunch of kids and all this, and grandparents and shit. And everybody came out mad, but they wanted to see it. And they came out and they looked. And some people fell off right away, but other people stayed and watched with me. And then eventually everybody left. And I just stayed and watched. And I watched from like 3 to basically till sunrise as the other stars passed through their motion, but this thing stayed in the same spot. And as it got to that point just before dawn where it's like blue outside, You know, the sun hasn't come up yet, but it's not black anymore. It's blue. You can see a little bit. I could see the outline of the square, and it was like a shade darker than the rest of the sky. And it stayed that way as the sky lit up. That one square stayed a shade darker. And that whole thing only lasted like 20, 30 minutes, you know. But I remember thinking that it was a broken star. But I didn't have any sort of flat earth reference or dome earth reference or anything like that. I just basically just filed it away. And it wasn't until that night that I was taught that I watched Under the Dome, and Mark Sargent used to have his phone number at the end of the video, so I decided to call him. And I don't know why, but the story just popped in my head, and it was like at the same time we were both like, holy crap, I saw the dome, you saw the dome. And I would have never, you know, at that time I was all about space, so it didn't make any sense to me what I'd seen. And this isn't somebody else's story, this is my story. But I always stayed away. Like, I must have known. I think we all know. I think anybody that goes into the flat earth stuff, you already know it's true. And as soon as you start looking into it, like I say, it's more of validation. It's more like you sort of realize why you were given this Star Wars childhood, you know, full of movies, and your teachers all telling you and showing you these crazy videos and all. Like, they had to trick you. They had to entice you into believing it. And it's that doesn't happen with the flat earth. The flat earth, it's like everything says not to believe this. You're going to get ostracized. Your family will get mad at you. Everybody you talk to who isn't there yet will get mad and tease you and talk shit. You literally have no reason to believe this. But as soon as you start looking into it, you're like, oh yeah, all right, I already knew it. And that's that part. Like, for me, I never wanted to go into it because I didn't want it to be right. And then I didn't, you know, and I always figured if the flat earth thing is right, then Christians should be all over that shit. And I don't want Christians to have a leg up in the argument. So I like stayed away from it. I used to say, oh, you believe something that, you know, you believe the Bible, something that was written when people believed the earth was flat. Now, again, this is before I knew about Francis Bacon and, you know, 1611, King James, all that shit. But it was like, you know, that whole flat earth thing is, you would think the church and you know, every Catholic Christian person would be all over that shit because it basically validates the Bible. It just would lead to too many questions because, you know, you'd have to say, like, considering the church was the supposedly the lead scientific body in the world for a long time, what evidence were they given that made them go against the fucking Bible? They don't want to answer that question. You are not the smartest guy in the room, R-U-M-E. Under the Dome, LOL, liberal zombie programming. Yep, I'm a liberal. In a glass sphere. Yep, we're in a glass sphere. See, isn't it funny how you keep saying nonsense, and I'm actually asking you questions, but you won't answer it? You know, this water is in what? What are we in? See, with me and the TV show thing, I can explain it. First of all, I can say, I don't know what the fuck we're in. I know that in our dome could be in anything. I don't know what it is, but I think it's a structure that's in something. Whether it's a giant structure like Truman Show, you know, they made this big, giant, ridiculous looking dome. If that's it, I think practically, and I apply, you know, like just common sense. We are advancing all the time. Are we going to have shrinking technology? Absolutely. Are we going to have invisible technology? Absolutely. Are we going to have the technology to build a dome that the people inside won't know they're in? Absolutely. So why wouldn't we be in one of those? My theory talks about, it answers for aliens. It answers for Earth shape. It answers all the questions. It answers why the government is what it is. It answers the purpose question. The thing that everybody's gotten away from over the years. Why are we here? What's our purpose, man? We're here because we're extras. We're unwilling, unknown, knowing extras in the show. And if we happen to be creative enough or we happen to be valuable enough, they'll pluck us out of the system and use us up and, wring us dry and throw us away like they've done to so many Goyim artists out there. And if I'm wrong, let's hear it. What makes you think I'm wrong? When Tesla was, I don't necessarily believe in Tesla. I don't think Tesla is necessarily real. I think Tesla is kind of one of those synonyms that they've given a lot of technology to, just sort of, he was the greatest mind in the world and yet he died broke. Like, just the same stupid narrative it always is. But apparently, according to the Tesla, the electromagnetic universe theory, all that stuff, well, there was no reality TV show back then. He didn't have a base like we have. There was no TV back then. Now that we know what TV is and we know what reality TV is, when Tesla was talking about all those signals that were flying around, those electromagnetic signals, and those are just television signals. We're just in a structure. We're just in a structure. And the communication signals and all that other stuff. That's seems to make sense to me. That's called a satellite. You believe in satellites? You're a wild man. A wild man? What? Can't let you slide on that, dude. Magnetic plasma formless sphere. Electromagnetic. Why would you think that we're in a formless sphere? Like what? See, again, I'm just trying to make sense of it. All you're talking about is like, it just adds more questions. So what's that thing in? So what's that thing in? So what's that thing in? You have to ask yourself, where does this information even come from? The narrative that you push, where did it come from? Who came up with it? It's flat and round. It's a fractal. See, the thing is, speaking of the technology and fractals and shit, when you look at how video games, like video games today are so amazing. You go look at one of the ones that's trying to be realistic, like, I don't know, like Assassin's Creed or some shit. And literally, it's in a world. There's an entire world that you can traverse and go through and blah, blah, blah. And there's individual trees and grass everywhere and birds fly around and all these different things. They don't program that in. They don't program each individual blade of grass and leaf and all that. They program it into the computer and then the computer generates it. And that's what our system is. It's a structure based on fractal mathematics and all that shit, but it's the Fibonacci sequence is just a code. That's why it's in everything. Because it's part of the computer that generates the world we live in. It has to have a base code to put into everything, and that's what the Fibonacci sequence is. It's really simple. It's not even like one of the biggest tricks they do to us is telling us that the whole conspiracy is this complicated bunch of bullshit and blah, blah, blah. It's not. It's really not. And again, it's something we all know. Like, everybody knows politicians are corrupt. Everybody knows Hollywood is full of pedophiles. Everybody knows, the Jews control the money, the power, entertainment, shit like that. Excuse me. As soon as you start trying to talk about those things in reality, we're like programmed to shut down. And I think a lot of it is that NPC shit. Zeros and ones, circles and squares. Well, that's base level shit. But you know what's crazy? I challenge you guys. Go outside and look at the clouds. If you look at the at like any of those Assassin's Creed or whatever video games, and you look at the sky, it's almost indistinguishable from our sky. They do a really good job on the sky. And the one thing that I guess we don't really realize is that the computers can't actually make circles, right? If you look at a guy's head or something like that, it's straight lines, but it's shaded to look like it's round. And if you actually look up at the clouds, a lot of times you're going to see straight lines and shit that are just sort of shaded to look like they're round. It's the same sort of sky that you see in the video games, and they can't actually make the circles, so they do that same thing. There should never be straight lines in the sky. There should definitely never be right angles in the sky. And you see them all the time if you pay attention. So what are doctors? They are planted here. What are doctors? I'll let my wife handle that one. What are doctors, sweetheart?
I mean, how nice am I supposed to be?
No, just the truth. Don't you your bitter personal perspective. Just what is a doctor? Is a doctor there to open minds and get people to challenge things?
No, a doctor is a very well programmed puppet that's designed to perpetuate the propaganda and the greedy, keep you sick program. I mean, that's what they're there for. I think a lot of them get into it with very good intentions, and then they get bastardized by the system, by pharmaceutical companies, by insurance companies, by other medical professionals, by the astronomical amount of debt they had to put themselves in order to practice a profession that they've dreamed of their whole lives. But they're the puppets of the system. They're there to perpetuate. They're there to keep us controlled and in our places. Keep us sick. That's one of their methods of keeping us in our place.
That and they are prisoners. They're prisoners. You know, that doctor that is like the house doctor, you know, he's not allowed to be house. He has to push what he's told. So it's really interesting, right? So let's say you're a bioengineer who specializes in the mechanics of clouds and snail reproduction, clouds and snail reproduction. And say you find something, and with that, you know, you have your $100,000 a year job. You have your prestige. You tell people, you know, I'm a professor at the blah, blah, blah. I am the blah, 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 blah. Everybody's like, oh, shit, you're super smart. You know, you make your money. You have your 2.5 kids and your white picket fence, and that shit's not cheap. You know, your $500,000 a year or $500,000 mortgage. You know, both your kids have cars, and those are leases, and those leases have to have full coverage, and you know, everybody's got a cell phone, and even though you're making all this money, you basically check to check. Wife's at home, you know, PTA queen, this, that, the other. And then you, in your research, you find out, hey, wait a minute, I don't think this motherfucker's round. I think I think there's actually something to this whole those nagging flat earthers. One thing, like, do people think that flat earthers just woke up one day and was like, I'm going to be ridiculed by everybody I know, and I'm going to make everybody mad? Like, no, you're only a flat earther because you learned more than the bullshit you were given. You were given more information, and that information made more sense to you than what you'd been drilled into your head every day of your life since you were born. That's not how it works. When things aren't true, you don't just accept them. Oh, well, there's nothing, I'm just changing my mind. I believe this way, and now I'm going to believe this way. That's not how that works. So let's say that again, you have this job, you're the professor, blah, 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 and you find out that the earth isn't round. And you go to your colleague and you say, hey, Irving Greenberg. And he's like, what do you want, you dumb goyim? How'd you even get here? I mean, how can I help you? And you say, Irving, I found out, I think that the earth isn't round. And he's like, oh, shit. Pulls down the shades and shit. Turns on, hey, you can't say that. What do you mean I can't say that? And he goes, you remember that other goyim that worked here, right? You remember how he mysteriously vanished, right? Well, it's because he started barking up the same tree you wore. And when you're an electromagnetic engineer who specializes in cloud formations and snail fucking, if you get blackballed from those two things, that degree that cost you $1 gazillion to get in the first place, that shit's worthless. What other job are you going to do? If you've been sitting around pretending you're a scientist for the last fucking 10 years, and now suddenly you got to still pay for all those things. You got to pay for your $500,000 mortgage and your lease card. Like, what are you going to do? Where's that person going to go and just jump right into another gig? Especially if he's blackballed from the field, blacklisted from the whole field altogether. His name goes in the book. I don't know about you, but if it was tell the truth or live a really great life and my family lives a really great life and all that other stuff, and all I got to do is shut the fuck up, I'm probably going to shut the fuck up. So when you're talking about all the scientists and doctors and all, first of all, most of those people weren't like the rebel people to begin with. Those were the people who were like, teacher, didn't we have a pop quiz supposed to be today? And everybody's like, oh, Irving, sorry, I just want to be better. Those guys weren't rebelling. Those are the guys that conformed to begin with. And now they've become the cool guys because they have the money and all that shit. They're not giving that up for anything. Let's see. Jesus Christ. So when you're sick, they make you better. They are puppets. What? So most of the time, the doctor doesn't make you better. The thing is, there has to be a balance. There's no balance there. There has to be a balance between modern and whatever you want to call it, medicine. Yeah, you break your arm, you need to go get some modern medicine. Set that shit, get it, You cut your shit out, you cut your fucking foot off. Go get that modern medicine to put your foot back on. Modern medicine tells you, Western medicine tells you, you have a cold. There's a cold going around that is killing everybody. And it's so dangerous because you might have it and not even have any symptoms or anything, but you still have it. You need to go get a shot that's not going to work. And then get a booster shot that's not going to work. And get another booster shot. And get another booster shot. And get another booster shot. And that's where you sort of have to be a little bit smarter. You have to look into things like the 1976 swine flu vaccination program, where the government literally lied, claiming that there was a a thing there wasn't, a coronavirus, and convinced 46 million Americans to vaccinate, knowing that the vaccines caused GBS, which is actually polio. At the same time, the vaccine that was approved wasn't the vaccine that was actually given to people. And they were using the jet injector method to give these things. The jet injector, it transfers enough material between each person to transfer things like hepatitis B and other nasty things like that. Every single time that thing's used, enough material is transferred from one person to the next to do that. That's why they had to stop using it. But they got 46 million of us to do it, just in the United States. Who knows how many worldwide? And it was for literally nothing. Not even for literally nothing. They knew it was poison. They knew there was no swine flu. They knew their method wasn't any good. They knew all these negatives and did it anyway. And the guy that did it, Dr. David Sensor, was prior to that in charge of the Tuskegee syphilis experiments, where the government gave people syphilis unknowingly and then monitored them. And he was in charge of the program. And even though his colleagues and everybody else were saying, hey, maybe we should stop this, this is morally wrong, he refused to stop until the news found out about it, till somebody leaked the story, and he was kind of put in the hot seat, and then he finally did. That was the guy in charge of the swine flu vaccination program in 76. If you actually look into, all you have to do is look at what they want you to know. I'm so opposed to you looking into conspiracy theories. I don't want people to go look at the guy with the beard and the shaved head and the, American, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's also stupid. Don't do that. Go look for yourself. Go read the information the Jews, want you to know, and you'll be amazed by how crazy the stories are. It's also called Middle Earth, the equilateral plane. See, the thing is, this is where I just never understand. What are these people even talking about? What evidence do you have to support any of that shit? When I talk about the TV show theory, I'm talking about the world we live in. And even then, I don't like talking about it. Because at the end of the day, I know it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get those answers. I'm not going to know what we actually live in. We're not going to be able to stop the pedophilia. We're not going to be able to stop the pedophilia in Hollywood. We're not going to be able to stop the pedophilia in the church. We're not going to be able to stop the government from fucking us. We're not going to be able to have the access to the Tartaria information or any of the history that we want. We're not going to have the utopian life that we should have, that we have the means, the technology, and the resources for everyone to have. We're not going to have any of that shit until we, the Goyim, unite and overthrow the Jews that control our narrative. The rest of it is just distraction. It's all distraction. And the best distractions are the true things. The best distractions are the pedophilia in Hollywood. Because we all feel like better people when we're talking about that shit, when we're exposing that. You get that reward. Yes, I'm not one of these other people who ignores this. I'm somebody that talks about it. And you feel good about yourself. Just like when you look up anything for Tartaria and you get valid up, there's a fire and we don't know who built it, and the guy that designed it won in a contest and it was built in 2 years and blah 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 blah. You get that validation. It's a perfect distraction. You go look at you try to look up like gay hip hop industry or ritual hip hop industry, all that. You're gonna find countless videos for this secret that they don't want us talking about. There sure is a lot of information about it. The flat earth, whether you go flat or round, it doesn't matter. You can't prove it. You can prove it, but you can't, like, they know, but you're just some guy or some female. All of these things, every conspiracy, if you dig deep enough, you're going to run into the Jews. So why don't we start with the Jews and then work down instead of all trying to meet? Well, hey, you go that route, you go that route, you go that route, you go that, you. And eventually, we'll all just meet at the Jews way later. What's the point there? It'll never work. It hasn't worked so far. What are we supposed to do here then? If that's all right, we're supposed to just stay cavemen. I don't even, like, your responses, it's always weird. When somebody starts arguing their own points, they know they're wrong. They're just not reconciling with it. Like when you start, so what you're saying is, so blah, blah, blah. Like, I think it's pretty clear. I don't have a problem saying exactly what I mean. When you start saying stuff like that, you're just struggling with this, and you gotta approach it from a different narrative. No, take nature back. Hell no. Fuck no. It always makes me laugh when I'm on a social media app. I'm using my phone so that I can be on a social media app, and somebody that's talking to me who's probably on their cellular telephone starts talking about we need to go back to blah, blah. We don't need to go back anywhere. Nobody had it right. If somebody had it right, we would still be doing it. If it's good enough, people will steal it. Nobody's had it right. Socialism, true socialism, is the best thing. No, what we're told socialism was, that wasn't socialism. That was communism. But they tell us it was socialism, so we don't think, oh, that's bad. Like, this is, it's all just bullshit. And I personally, I like my cell phone. I like my TV. I like that I have food in the fridge. I have no desire to be a fucking farmer and grow all of my own food. I like growing tomato plants and, vegetables and shit like that. But I'm not making my own cheese, I'll tell you that. Like, we don't need to go backwards at all. No, it's not a back thing. We need to learn from a past that, again, we're just given. We don't really know. We're just given it, but we need to learn, but we don't need to go back to anything. Create heaven on earth now. Yeah, absolutely. We absolutely should. It makes me, though, it takes me back to the Jew thing. Like, at the end of the day, we are the first generation that we know of, that we're allowed to know of, that has the means, the technology, and the resources that everybody here should and could live a really good life without having to work, without having to suffer, without, all that shit. So why don't we? I think the secret, if you will, the main thing that we need to focus on, I think everybody needs to start focusing on true selfishness. Not low-level selfishness where you don't help somebody or whatever. No, that's different. True selfishness is me wanting for my wife, my children, and I to live the happiest, healthiest, safest life we can possibly live. And the only way that can happen is if everyone else is living the happiest, healthiest, safest lives they can live. So it's not about like, oh, I just want to go live in the woods and blah, blah. No. Like people that I see that one all the time too, that meme where it's like somebody's, all I need is this, and it's a cabin in the woods and the blah, blah. Do you know how much fucking work and uptake that shit takes, people just don't understand like how many people are involved in your everyday life. How many people it takes to make sure that light can turn on. How many people it takes to make sure the fucking the cell phone call is going through. You know? We are social creatures. We like to be around people and maybe not all the time. Some of us do, some of us don't. But living in the woods by ourselves, waiting for whatever it is, waiting for the nothing to come devour us, that's not the solution. I want everybody to live the best life. Do you really, like, I always ask people this. If you had the best, nicest, most expensive TV on the block, would your television watching experience be any better knowing that other people on your block can't afford the same TV you can? Does that make watching the television programs better? Does that make the picture better? Does that make the sound better? No. If somebody else if everybody else on the block had the same TV as you, would that lessen your picture or your sound or would that lessen your TV watching experience? No. So why don't we all have the best? Why do we do that to each other? Because we're programmed and so it makes me wonder because I have to ask why about everything. Why do the Jews and the people in charge keep everything so keep conflict everywhere? And it takes me back to the television show thing. Because every single program you watch on TV, everything that everybody watches or is entertained by is conflict based. Everything is conflict. Whether it's you want your sports team to win over the other sports team, or, my wife watches Ion, which is nothing but conflict. But even like kid shows, will the round peg fit in the square hole? That's conflict. So if conflict is the backbone of entertainment, and we are in some sort of weird reality TV show, some sort of structure, well, then it's up to the Jews, it's up to the chosen in charge to ensure that there's enough conflict to keep the watchers entertained. It's all about keeping the conflict going. They can't allow us to have the utopian society because that shit would be boring. That's probably why the last reset happened. Because every time we get to that point where we become this utopia and we figure out that we're in this weird dome thing, they destroy us. They reset us. And they re-upload the system to whatever date they want to. So whether it's, 1850 or whatever it is. And they just start the season up. Now we're on season 4, season 5, season 6. Wonder how long it'll take them to figure it out this time. That's why there's resets. See, nobody's answering those questions. There must be some sort of conflict. There must have been something. We must have destroyed ourselves somehow because we're just dumb fucking goyim. That's what the narrative we're given says. But what makes sense? The story of the Tower of Babel. Clearly they'd figured it out. Clearly they were trying to build something to the top of the dome because you can't fucking fly through it. You can't sail to the edge and get through it, so let's try to just get through from a structure below. As soon as they got to the very top, the fucking watchers flushed the toilet, and there's your flood narrative. Pretty simple. Not nearly as complex and hard to understand as they try to make you think it is. I'm literally asking, what should life be then in your opinion? Life should be the best. You know, this thing that we live in is amazing. It's beautiful. I mean, look outside. The trees are changing. To me, it sucks because it's a sign of cold coming. But, like, we live in this amazing... Life is amazing. You get to live. It's sort of a weird trick. You know, everything is sort of this weird trick. Like, having kids is the hardest fucking trick of them all. You know? You're not prepared to love something like that. You might think you are, but you're not. And it's all about, you know, failure and fucking, you know, you got to watch them fail and struggle. And unless you happen to be super rich and in the know, your fucking family and you got it sucks. It sucks. That part sucks. But life is amazing. And life would be so much better, that the kid part especially, if there wasn't this class system, this monetary system that we all live under. This bullshit Jewish narrative that, oh, well, you know, there's a God watching you. You realize that God is Big Brother before there was the technology for it. They just convinced everybody that there was somebody always watching. He's always watching. And then you got to go to church and you got to tell the pastor all of your sins. Like, do you know how crazy it is that churches and like, you know, that all the people that go to a church get their advice from a virgin who never had to pay bills or anything like that? Who lives a life that, like, not only would none of you could none of you relate to, none of you would want to relate to that life. That life sucks. And you're going to take marital advice from a fucking virgin? What are you, insane? Do you know how stupid that? Seriously, think about that. Are you going to go get your car fixed by a guy who like rides a bike? Have you ever driven a car before? No. You ever worked on cars before? No, but I filled my bike tire once. Okay, well, go ahead and fix my car there, good sir. Like, what are you, fucking nuts? Tell me in what world, in what situation do you listen to somebody that's a virgin? You find out somebody's like 35 and they're a virgin. Does it even matter? Like they could be like, I got some really great financial advice. And you'd be like, yeah, well, why don't you use it to buy some sex, you weirdo? Yet, gotta love those priests in that system that's basically designed by and for pedophiles. No. You can't have any girls in your life. The one thing you gotta do is avoid fucking sex for some reason. Well, the truth is, the church doesn't want you to have a wife and then a child who doesn't stay in the church, and then you leave your wealth and your belongings to that child, and then the church doesn't get your wealth and belongings. See, everybody that's in the church, all of their shit goes to the church when they die. You guys, if anybody wants to jump in here and tell me what I'm wrong about, I'd love to hear it. You know, I'm not only am I going against the standard narrative, I'm going against the conspiracy side too. Most truthers don't go the way I do. I'm amazed by how many truthers are still Christians. How the fuck that happens is just, how do you stop your thinking at Christianity? Is it not possible that the flood, mud flood, whatever reset method is a natural phenomenon and not a controlled trigger event? Sure. I mean, everything's possible, but I at the end of the day, it's what's your definition of natural? Like, I think the thing we live in is manufactured. So, you know, it's like rain, right? No, none of you question the rain. None of you. All of you accept the programming that the sun evaporates the water, the water floats up to the sky where condensation happens. And then once enough water is floating up there or something, whenever we don't really know what the trigger event is, like, like rain clouds are always purple, but purple gray clouds don't always mean rain. White clouds, they never mean rain. Like, we don't know exactly what makes the water decide to start falling, but I've done the math before and I can't remember it right off the top of my head, but let's just say they say an inch of rain falls over Chicago. Okay, here, we'll do this real quick. So this is funny. So we'll say square footage of Chicago. So Chicago is 234 square miles, which that's not what I'm asking you. Let's see if we can find a Wikipedia. Okay, so that's weird because I used to be able to find this a lot easier. So I gotta say, we'll say 228 because it's 227.73 square miles. So 228 square miles to feet, to square feet. Okay, so that is 100,000. That's million. So 6,356,200. No, 6,356,275,200 square feet. So I think we would all be comfortable saying that it's 237 or 636. Well, no, 6,360,000,000 square feet. So 6,360,000,000. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay. So 6,360,000,000 square feet. 1 square foot of rain, of water, is a gallon. It's equal to a gallon. So that's 6 pounds, right? So if we take our 6,360,000,000 times 6 pounds, we end up with 3,816,000,000,000 pounds of water that is flying up in the sky until it decides to fall and rain an inch over Chicago. You ever thought about that before?
Water it takes to rain a full inch.
Not much. I mean, not much. A big rainstorm, we get 2-3 inches a lot of the times on those big rainstorms.
A lot of water.
And so you say, what is this? This 3 trillion, almost 4 trillion pounds of water. Every inch that falls is another 4 trillion pounds of water. Let's just say it's snow, same thing, right? Right? Say there's like 18 inches of snow that falls over Chicago. So right, it's so much water, especially when you're talking about during the wintertime. Right. During the wintertime, How much water, like, where is all that water evaporating from that it's then coming up and it's turning into a snowstorm that then falls on Chicago? I mean, the earth is tilted and blah, 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 blah. Like, what is fueling a storm that just continues to drown and drench? Now, rain is one of those funny things because, again, it's not like it's a universal thing. You can have little tiny rain that's like needles, or you can have big old fat rain that fucking every drop you're like, psh, psh, psh. So it's not like there's a standard size. And then the best part is, my favorite part is when you start asking about hail. Because hail doesn't happen when it's cold outside. Hail only happens when it's warm. And if you look at what they tell you as to how hail is formed when a piece of dust or debris gets pulled up into the clouds and pushed up by the air into the super cold air way up high in the sky, where up above, this is literally what they say, up above there's like an upside down lake. And that piece of debris goes into the lake and then falls out like if you drop a stone into water and you see that after the stone hits that bloop that comes up. Well, that's what happens. It comes down. It's a drip. And it comes down and then it gets pushed and it flash freezes because it's so cold up there. And it blows it back up into that upside down lake. And this keeps happening over and over again until the hail gets to the desired size and then it falls. That's how they tell us hail exists. What fucking lake are they talking about? Where is this water that they're talking about, this upside down water? But see, again, because you believe in evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and they go, dude, that's easy to prove. Just get a couple of bowls. Yeah, well, bowls are solid objects, like a dome. Are you saying there's a dome there? You ever notice if you look off into this in the distance, the clouds seem to have a layer that they can't go beneath and a layer they can't go above? There are flat tops and flat bottoms. You ever notice that? Kind of strange. But because of evaporation, condensation, precipitation, we then get things called tornadoes. That like 90% of the world's tornadoes happen only in the United States for some reason. If you look up the history of tornadoes and hurricanes and all that kind of shit, surprisingly, there isn't a real detailed one. They happen every many years. Somebody will say a hurricane happened or a tornado happened or something. And you go, well, Jesus, they were keeping track of, stupid nonsense from conversations that happened between two people back in 534 BC. But nobody's fucking writing down the finger of God coming down and scratching a big fucking hole in the earth. Nobody's talking about that. For some reason, they just don't seem to exist. But because the sun evaporates the water, a tornado as wide as my street or as big as like 3 miles in diameter can form and just destroy everything because the sun evaporates water.
Speaking of which, was Florida devastated last night?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. We get hurricanes and shit, multiple hurricanes every year now. We're told that the slave ships that brought the black people here, the Jewish-owned slave ships that brought the black people to the United States to be sold, that they took the slave routes. That's how they navigated from Africa to the south of the United States. They just figured that shit out. And they took the hurricane routes. I guess there weren't any hurricanes at the time, huh? Because that would have been pretty fucked up. Especially since they were basically in order to account for how many slaves they say they brought over, they would have had to have ships constantly running. Again, I don't believe in the slavery narrative. I'm just saying. Really enjoying your thoughts this morning.
You don't believe in the story that they've told us, but you do believe that people had slaves, and like your great grandfather was a slave.
Oh, I don't think. I think poor people were slaves, but I don't believe in the African slave narrative at all. No. Okay, so let's talk about it. So what we're told is that when white man invaded, there were as many as 100 million or more Native Americans across the Americas, North and South. So then white people came and started multiplying. And then those white people brought, at one point I read it was 50 million slaves, but that changed. So I'm not really sure what the millions of slaves that they say were brought over was. Not really sure. But a bunch of black people were brought over, and then they were bred, supposedly, forced to have as many babies as possible. So between the Native Americans who were...
How do you breed humans?
Native Americans that were here, you force them to have sex. The Native Americans that were here, the slaves, and the white people, over the last 400 years or so, more. I mean, the Native Americans were here long before white people invaded, but all of those native, 100 million, they were all having babies and shit too. So we're talking about billions and billions of fucking people in the last few hundred years. Where'd they go? Billions. Where are all those fucking people? Have you ever been digging in the ground somewhere and come across some old fucking human? Have you ever come across, my wife pointed it out one time, the teeth thing? Not just billions of humans, but then trillions of teeth. Every adult with their 32 teeth, and their 32 teeth, and then their what, 20 something kid teeth that they already lost. It's not like they were keeping them. The reason you got to take the teeth out of the bodies before the pigs can eat them is because the teeth don't go anywhere. The teeth last forever. Blah blah blah. I mean, again, and we're only talking about 500 years. We supposedly find settlements of old burial sites of people thousands of years old. Blah blah blah. This dates back to 1300 BCE and blah blah. We find those things. So to think over the last few hundred years, billions of people with their trillions of teeth have existed in this area we live in, and be damned if there's any evidence of it. We have a hard time in modern day times dealing with all the dead bodies we have. Like if everybody knew about all the scandals going on with all the morgues and shit, we'd be disgusted. We have modern day conveniences and we have a hard time dealing with the bodies. Where did all the fucking dead bodies go? Billions and billions of people. Where'd they all go? They definitely weren't being cremated back then. Cremation, you don't just light bodies on fire. One of my favorite stories is the Gettysburg story, and I tell this one all the time. But like for all of you Civil War fucking the South, all you people that rock your Confederate flags, you're so stupid. The Confederacy lasted 4 years. From 1871 to 1875. They got their shit kicked in and they lost. Why? That's like I'm rocking a sports team jersey and people are like, "Oh, what's that?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, my city had a sports team for 4 years and we lost every single game we ever played, and we after 4 years they were like, you guys suck so bad, we're not gonna do this anymore.
But we had it.
But I'm rocking this jersey now. Look at that. That's fucking cool, isn't it? Like, that's dumb. But these Confederate, I love talking to Confederate people, because it's like, okay, tell me something other than slavery that the Confederacy stood for that you stand for. But we have to believe that somehow the aristocrats, the people that could own slaves, which we're told is like the 1% that could afford to own slaves, the rest of the people were all poor fucking mountain folk. Somehow, without any phones, any ways of communicating, any internet, email, nothing like that, the aristocrats were able to rally up all these mountain people to then somehow become armies that would march from place to place. So with Gettysburg, I think a lot of people think Gettysburg is more south than it is. It's actually in southern Pennsylvania. So Gettysburg is actually more north than anything. Gettysburg is one of the bloodiest battles in the whole Civil War. So you have all these people that marched over to Gettysburg. You have to think about this. I don't know how long it took them to march. I don't how were they eating? Where were they sleeping? Where did everybody get their uniforms from? You know, if the Confederacy just existed, like, all these people would have had to get their somebody had to sew all those uniforms. Who was sewing all the Confederacy's uniforms and had them all ready when the Confederacy first decided to do its fucking thing?
Betsy Ross. She's sewing.
She was the sewing machine. I get it, the sewing machine. Wah, wah, wah.
But no, for real, what time of year was it? Because last night I got a phone call from the neighbors who were walking from Walmart 1 mile away, and it was too fucking cold, and begged me to come pick them up halfway through their trek.
Battle of Gettysburg.
It was in Pennsylvania, and it was this time of year.
So instead of it being cold, it was July 3rd. So it was balls hot. And by balls, I mean humid as fuck Pennsylvania balls hot. So all of these troops, they marched over to their positions. And again, how were these positions established? Who built all that? And we don't talk about that. But the first day was the bloodiest day. And the combination of both sides' death toll was around 20,000, with the South taking the majority of the casualties. So we've all seen those like this happened with my teacher. My history teacher was telling us about this. And even when I was in 8th grade or whatever it was, and they were talking about this, and my teacher says, and here we have a letter from one of the fallen soldiers, and notice how eloquent it is, because, all those mountain folk back then, they all spoke with my dearest beloved, I've been mortally wounded in the glorious field of battle, serving my Confederacy, which is the only thing that I love as much as you. Long live the South, my... And then he writes out a line. And I asked my teacher, well, how the fuck did we get all those letters and shit? And he was like, oh, well, at nighttime, they had a truce. And they would clear the battlefields at nighttime. And it's, okay, so during the day, so they've marched their way there. Now they fight all day, killing each other. Then at nighttime, they go out on the battlefield and collect all of the dead bodies. By what? By moonlight? Now I don't remember, is it the Confederacy wore gray and the North war, the Union wore blue. So at nighttime, by candle firelight, moonlight, they're able to distinguish which ones were blue and which ones were gray. And they cleared the battlefield and got all the trinkets, and all 20,000 people were cleared from the battlefield. And I don't know, stacked over on the side. Now, remember, it's fucking balls July. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with what happens to dead bodies in the fucking heat of summer. Dead mammals. But first, they bloat. All the gases and shit inside them start expanding. And they bloat. And then all of a sudden, as if a plug or something is removed, all of that shit inside them that's now liquefied because it's fucking gross, all the flies and all the, now it just comes out, and it just and they like flatten out because all their insides and shit come, yeah, it's disgusting. That's what happens to roadkill. You've seen it. That's what happens to bodies when they die. But these guys clear the battlefield, and then the next day, after they've fought all day, cleared the battlefield all night. I would imagine it would take quite a few hours to clear a battlefield of 20,000 soldiers in 1870 whatever. At nighttime, you know, like that would take a minute. But the next day they fight, and now there's 8,000 soldiers that have died. And so they clear the battlefield again. And the next day they fight, and around 2,000 have died. And again, it's the South. The South takes the casualties, and South is defeated. And then after that, the soldiers, what? They march to the next battle? Here we go, we're marching to the next battle, hurrah. You know, because they're all these people that, it's not like they were just trained army or something. They were just people, right? And they again, somehow they had uniforms and guns, and it's all just a bullshit narrative. It's all bullshit. It's all ChatGPT bullshit. Why do you think whenever you see one of those old school narratives, it looks like a fucking, you know, oh, the people were smaller back then? Really? Really? Like super little petite little people, huh? That's really fucking weird. Why is it every time you see any sort of depiction of our history, they look like Shakespearean actors? George Washington walking around with tights on and shit. Come on. The manliest man around has tights on and a powdered wig? Gotcha. No photos of any battles, yet photography existed in the 1840s. The earliest photos go back to the 1840s, and yet no battle photos exist. Just a bunch of pictures of people posing for battles. It's all bullshit. It's all just another bullshit narrative. It's ChatGPT narrative bullshit. That was always the hang up, is like thinking about the Jewish, the Jewish writers who wrote all this out. But if they didn't have to write it, if all they had to do was program the parameters and put the little pieces in, and then ChatGPT did the rest, that explains it a lot better. That's why it's also copy and paste. That's why you always get the same characters and the same, Ben Franklin was this polymath who just did this and 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 this. Like, did he have a car? How the fuck was he getting around everywhere? Ben Franklin went back and forth to Europe a bunch of times? Are you kidding? They make it sound like that shit was an easy sail back in the day. It's all the same bullshit, guys. It's all the same bullshit. And I appreciate everybody for being here. I'm hoarse and sore-throated, and my body is killing me. You guys just have no idea. I don't talk about it because it's none of your business. I'm in so much pain. I'm going to pay for this all day, just like I did yesterday. You know, I know it doesn't seem like it sounds arrogant, the sacrifices I make to do this, but you guys don't. It is. It's true. This is a sacrifice to do this. I'm going to have my ass kicked for the rest of the day now because I did this. So I hope you guys appreciate it because I appreciate you being here. I hate when I see numbers going up. We are here to suffer. Why is everything like that? Great. Now you pulled a different cord. You ever notice that? Every belief structure, everything that exists tells us that we're here to suffer. That you realize every Christian, their ultimate goal, the best case scenario for them is that everyone dies. The best thing that can happen is that Jesus finally comes down, and as soon as his little toenail touches the ground, all 15 of the good Christians get raptured, and the rest of us are here to deal with Armageddon. Dun, dun, dun. Why? Why would everybody want that? Why would you want to believe in a God that knows his house is a house of pedophilia and does nothing about it? Why would you want to believe in such a ridiculous God that's going to make everybody die because, the ridiculous God that I think most people talk about Revelations because maybe they read it when they were forced to read it as a kid and they have some vague recollection of it. But if you read Revelations as an adult and you think that shit makes sense, that, my dear, is a mental disorder. We had this down today, this, that, and she was saying that the people that don't identify as anything have a mental disorder, and to me, that pales in comparison to the people that can read Revelations as an adult and think that shit is real. Revelations is the dumb. When you understand that your God is sitting on a throne with multiple beings that are around him in a circle, saying over and over and over throughout all of eternity, "Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord, you are the greatest guy in the whole world. Oh Lord, we love you so much. You are the best." Something along those lines. Your shallow, insecure God created beings to sit around his golden throne and say how great he is over and over again for all of eternity.
That's the definition of egocentrism.
That's the definition of utter fucking insanity. That's as insecure as you could possibly be. Dionysus trumps Apollo. Which Dionysus? AD Dionysus? Or the other one, that the Greek god Dionysus? It's not monotheism, it's tragedy. No, it's dumb. It's dumb stories. That's all it is. Dumb stories. That would be like the only thing to survive an apocalypse was this one comic book store. And then, a million years later, it was found buried under a bunch of fucking shit. And the new people were like, look at this. This is all there be. Look at this man. There's this super man as it's been he could fly. And this other guy, this Batman, he didn't even have powers, but he had a bunch of gadgets. It's a bunch of nonsense, bunch of stupid nonsense. Fed to the goyim to keep them fucking stupid and distracted. Seriously, that's all religion is. It's a fucking dumb story given to us by the Jews to keep us distracted, to keep us self-policing. Oh, there's always somebody watching. Make sure you don't say anything bad about God's chosen people now. Do Christians not understand? They believe a completely different religion is their God's chosen people. And that religion looks down on Christians. They think you guys are dumb as fuck. Jesus doesn't, Jesus wasn't a thing. Mary's boiling in a vat of semen in hell for all of eternity. And like, they think the weirdest, goofiest shit, which leads us back into circumcision. And the fact that any of you that are circumcised, like myself, unfortunately, you don't even know why you're doing that. They've tricked you into thinking that it was a medical necessity. If it was a medical necessity, why have they been doing it since long before it was medically known? Oh, it just happened to be a coincidence? No, it's ritualistic. And if you look at your Bible, I think this is the craziest part of the Bible. Really, this is probably the craziest part, isn't it?
I don't know. That's a really
I'm making a bold statement. Saying that this is the craziest thing in the Bible is a bold statement. I get it, but I'm confident in it. Because we're saying that so circumcision was the covenant between Abraham, the Jew, and God. God promised Abraham that as long as he continued to circumcise all of his slaves, as long as he and his slaves were circumcised and then all the slaves continued to be circumcised, then he wouldn't destroy the earth again, and he would prove it by showing us rainbows. God doesn't care how you treat your fellow man. God doesn't care what you do to the earth. God doesn't care how you treat women or anything like that, how you treat animals, nothing. The only thing God cares about is that you keep cutting the fucking baby dicks. That's what you fucking dumbasses have been tricked into believing. You are marking yourselves as Jewish property. That's what they've tricked us all into doing. Nobody here believes in the Bible. That's impossible. And the thing is, you believe in the Bible whether you want to or not.
Well, maybe not believe, but have to live by.
Right. Right. I mean, if you're circumcised, it wasn't your choice. That's for damn sure.
Hello.
Mm-hmm.
This is.
Like it's bullshit. It's disgusting bullshit. And we all need to fucking stop it.
I did the phone interview. She said it'd be a few weeks and then we could schedule it out as we needed to.
This is the reality that we have to face. Like it's not real. It's all stupid. They're just lying to us. The Bible is one of their ultimate plans because it keeps us in line. It keeps us stupid, and it keeps them in the position they're in. If it weren't for the Bible, Israel couldn't be doing what it's doing right now. And the amount of money that's flowing into Israel, I know months ago it said it was set. Let's see. How much money has Israel been given since October 7th? U.S. military for aid tops $17.9 billion since last October 7th, 2 days ago. That's from 2 days ago. $18 billion in a year. And that's just the money. They say that, that money is earmarked for military aid. It's fucking money. Whether they have to now spend their money on military aid or they don't have to, whatever it is, it's just money. We also have two largest aircraft carriers are now stationed over there. How much money do you think those things cost to run every single day? How much Ukraine get? Ukraine get? How much? Let's see. I don't think it's. How much money has Ukraine been given? It's important to note that of the 175 billion total, only 106 billion directly aids the government of Ukraine. Yeah, I don't know how much I believe about this. This is the Council of Foreign Relations, so let's see what it says. The Council of Foreign Relations page. Can always trust them. Article by Jonathan Masters and Will Merrow. Gotta have two people writing this article for some reason. As the war in Ukraine, do you know why? Do people know why we give a shit about Ukraine? Has anybody even thought about that? Why would we care at all about Ukraine? Do we get anything from them? Are they a supplier? Are they an ally? Or are they? And the funniest thing is, Ukraine kept demanding that Israel help them. Have you ever heard of anybody asking help from Israel? Ever in history of bullshit war politics that we're on? You ever heard anybody being like, why isn't Israel helping us? The reason we give a shit about Israel or Ukraine is because Ukraine, especially Kiev, has one of the highest Jewish populations in that area of the world. And prior to the completely unprovoked invasion of Ukraine by Russia, completely unprovoked invasion, Israel had three of its largest 747s or whatever running nonstop to Kiev, flying people into Israel just nonstop. And then they would get their mansion, they would get their little compound. And like Israel doesn't have a population problem. That's why they've been building all of those settlements over because they were bringing the people in. Good.
I think it's getting better than I thought.
Awesome. NATO provoked the shit out of Russia Jr. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know any of that shit, dude. You just know what the TV has told you. One of my favorite things that the TV shows us is when like Hamas or Al Qaeda or ISIS films themselves running and doing like a roll on the ground and then popping up and shooting in a direction and then running off camera, and then the other guy comes and they do this and then they like upload that footage to Facebook or I don't even know. Like, why would we ever even see that footage? What the fuck is that shooting at? Like, it's the stupidest thing. But we see that, and they have their nice pressed khaki pants on, and their uniform, and their balaclava, so you can't see their Israeli faces, and their bright green headband, because nothing says smart war tactics like putting a bright green headband on. So fucking stupid. But see, what most people don't understand is that like there's the Munch-Smith Act, which is the legislation passed by the government that says it's allowed to propagandize the people without the people having any sort of recourse. But they are allowed to use false propaganda on us to push whatever agenda legally. They passed a law saying they could do it to us. It's the Mundt-Smith Act. And it's fucking ridiculous. But for those that don't think, like, if you don't think that they lie to us, September, I think, of 2021, maybe 2021 or 2020, Israel puts out this story that a guy called Hai, Hai, Shalain, Shaulain, he was supposedly the number one thorn in the side number one Israeli protester against the masks, against the Green Pass, against the vaccines. He was the anti-COVID guy. He was Israel's number one protest guy. And one day he's at an anti-mask rally and he gets picked up by the police and arrested for not really sure. And he is taken to jail, where 2 days later, he supposedly gets COVID.
Oh, it's because he wasn't wearing that mask.
The next Saturday, the following Saturday, not like skipping it, just the next Saturday, he releases a statement on his phone saying, I am too COVID to speak or respond to messages. You know how that COVID makes your fingers not work. But he's too sick. He believes he was poisoned. If he dies, it's because the police poisoned him. But with some prayer and some medicine, he believes in 2 or 3 weeks he'll be good to go. The next day he dies. The next day on the way to his funeral, because, you know, the Jews, they can do funerals within 24 hours somehow. They interview his brother, and they're like, hey, do you think if he knew that this was going to happen, he would have taken his shot? And his brother's like, no. And that's the end of the story. Nobody is wondering. Nobody is demanding any sort of, you know, he said he was poisoned. He got fucking super COVID, I guess, because he was arrested. But from the day he was arrested to the day he died was 10 days. So he was arrested. 2 days later, he was taken to the hospital with COVID, and 8 days later, he was dead. How many people do you know went from not sick to COVID dead in 8 days? It just happened to be the number one guy, blah, blah, blah. Now, he was taken from a rally, a no mask rally, so he must have been surrounded by other people yelling and letting the COVID come out of their mouth and spread. Yet nobody else came into the hospital with 8-day COVID death. Nobody from the rally came in with COVID death. Just this character. This character. So I, being the dumbass that I am, tried to find him. I mean, you would think he's the number one thorn in the side of the Israeli people. He's probably got a pretty substantial Facebook page, and he's probably has some stories written about him. And, you know, he was arrested he must have been a real thorn in the side to be arrested. Guess what? He doesn't fucking exist. Prior to his death, he doesn't exist. After his death, he doesn't exist. Nobody cares. None of his family, none of his friends are demanding that people look into it. Nothing. It's just gone. Almost like he never existed. Because that's what they do. They lie. Damn near every story that comes out of Israel is a fucking lie. Just like every story that makes it to our TV is a manufactured lie in some way, shape, or form. Remember the pipe bomb guy? What happened to the pipe bomb guy? Who lived in the white van with stickers all over it, even on the windows so you couldn't see out of it. How was he driving around in a van with stickers all over it, not getting pulled over? Especially with stickers with like Obama and crosshairs and shit like that. He sent a bunch. Why would you send a bunch of fake pipe bombs to these people? What would be the purpose of that? It's all fake bullshit. They just put out these fake fucking stories so we all fall in line. So we're scared. So we're scared of each other. You know, COVID was about making all of us fear each other. Fear each other and take the shot. That's all they wanted. You know, they lied. Oh, no, Israel has the highest number of people vaccinated per capita in the whole world. Gee, that's strange. You also had the highest number of sick people per capita in the world. Wonder if that has something to do with it. If you paid attention like I did, and you didn't, but I figured out to pay attention to the Israeli news, and that'll tell you what's going to happen here in the States. Like the whole Project 2025 thing, that's what Israel did in 2023. That's how they put Netanyahu in charge. Literally the same thing, and then up until 2022 actually, and then up until October 7th, 2023, they were doing the whole uh, um, fucking judicial reform, where they were going to limit the powers of the judiciary to scrutinize the executive branch and all the shit that's supposed to happen with the Trump 2025 shit. Israel just did it. Pay attention, motherfuckers. I'm telling you. But you would see it with COVID, where Israel would say, okay, there's going to be a new variant that drops real soon. Everybody run out and get this new booster. And then everybody goes out and gets the booster. And then suddenly the new variant shows up and everyone's sick. And for that, like it coincides like for the first week to 2 weeks after the booster comes out, after about a week or two, then you start getting the numbers start skyrocketing of people that are in the hospital with this new variant. And then after all the people that are going to get the vaccine get the vaccine, and then those numbers taper off, go figure. The fucking number of people that have the new variant start tapering off. And then they just repeat it. Oh, there's going to be a new variant. And then everybody runs out and gets their shots again. And then they get sick. It's fucking stupid. They have us scared of each other when we should be scared of them. They had us all accepting the idea that we shouldn't see our grandparents anymore. That we shouldn't see our loved ones. That we shouldn't hug each other. That we should hide from each other. Got people walking around in fucking bubbles and shit. I just took my kid to the hospital for something, and the intake lady had 3 fucking masks on. I can't imagine that was at all comfortable. And she's, if you have one mask on, you're breathing in a lot of your own carbon dioxide. Carbon monoxide. No, and dioxide. You breathe out carbon dioxide. You're breathing a lot of that in, but still some gets out. 3 masks on? She's just breathing that shit right back in. Ugh. And then she's going to get sick, and she's going to blame it on COVID. It was COVID's fault. I don't know. Again, if I'm wrong about any of this, by all means, you guys tell me. You guys notice that Tartaria became this thing that we all talk about at just before Israel really started doing what it was doing, and like as we are all.
That's what I felt like. That's just a big distraction.
It is a big distraction. It is, but the best distractions are the truth.
But it serves no purpose in present day. I am gonna get some more of those too.
Well, it does, because if presented the right way, it should help people get past their crazy religious programming. Because if Tartaria and shit,
they can make that. They need aliens under the realm of God.
No, if Tartaria and a reset have happened, and especially if multiple resets have happened, then everything that happened before that is bullshit. You can't talk about your Jesus 2,000 years ago and still believe that there was a reset 200 years ago. What, Jesus made it through the reset?
Jesus came back.
Everything else was compromised, but Jesus made it through.
Rapture had already happened. They can find all kinds of ways to explain that out.
Learn about Hermetic Gnosticism. I don't give a shit about any other previous thing. See, you're falling for the trap. I don't need something from the past to tell me how to do this. Nothing from the past had this right. What we need is something new, something that applies to today. Whatever the fucking thing is from the past, well, they didn't know about airplanes. They didn't know about an internet. You know, they didn't realize that we could all communicate with each other if we wanted to. If you guys, I'm doing my part. At this point, your guys' part is to share it, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. You know, share it with somebody that's going to come in, especially if you disagree. At least share it with somebody or on your page and title it, hey, come in here and tell this guy what he's wrong about. I'm not looking for people to pat me on the back. I feel like I'm 200 proofs the earth isn't a spinning ball. If you just pay attention, you're either going to be stubborn and choose to hang on to whatever you're hanging on to, or you're going to see things differently. It's one of the two. It's over your head. It's current. It still does. Sure. It's over my head and it's current. Gotcha. I know. I'm going to try insulting you into, like, what are you thinking? It's over your head. Oh, shut up. I'm sorry. You want to believe something? Who published that shit? Where'd that shit come from? What is this thing from the past that somehow survived its way to here that must be the truth? I don't need anything from the past, man. I'm so much more concerned with what's happening right now. What's happening right now is a genocide. And the reason that genocide is happening is because the people in charge have us focused on the past and focused on shit that doesn't matter. Isn't it funny how that barge hitting the bridge story, that shit sure disappeared quick, didn't it? When the truth about who the CEO was and she was found in her car and all that shit started coming out, boy, that shit sure disappeared quick. I'm sorry, man. Every time somebody brings up like some ancient wisdom or some shit like that, some sort of whatever, my immediate question is always, who published it? I don't think people think about that. If you've never tried to publish a book, you probably don't think about it. But if you've ever tried to publish a book, you understand that it's not like you just publish a book. Most of the publishers won't even accept a manuscript from somebody that's not represented by a literary agent. So you basically got to get you a Jew that is your go-between. And now that Jew, they get to look through your shit. And if they tell you to edit something or take something out, you better take it out. Unless they want it, unless they like it and push it, it's not going to matter. So you're going to have to pay this person, or you're going to have to sign over a big chunk of it. But a lot of times you pay them up front. And this person is now your literary agent. And they shop your deal to the publishers. But the trick is there's like a 2-month window or something that each publisher gets. So the agent is only allowed to present it to one publisher like every 2 months, because the one publisher doesn't want to decide to do it and have another publisher decide to do it, and then they both put out the books, because like that somehow couldn't be avoided any other way. And so if the literary agent likes what they see and you do whatever edits they suggest, then they shop it to the publishers. Now, the publishers have their intake people who read it, and maybe they'll make some suggestions, and then it'll get passed through different hands. If they decide to do it, it'll get passed through different hands who all get to decide to make edits on your shit. Nobody's original manuscript gets published. So anything, like, you ever wonder why you never see any Jewish or Israeli bad guys in anything. No movies, no TV shows, no books, no nothing. No Jews are ever the bad guys. No dancing Israelis are ever bad guys. Because everybody, because you know, the publisher is all Jews, the agents are all Jews, and they take out everything they don't want. And then you, who's the desperate writer, you're like, yeah, whatever, do what you got to do, whatever it is. And that's that. Then you get your book published if that's it. It's obviously not mainstream like your Jew hate. Mainstream. How mainstream is my Jew hate? I don't understand. I don't even understand that sentence. That's dumb. If my Jew hate was more mainstream, things might be a little bit better. But you say that like I'm not absolutely proud of what I say and believe and know and think. I'm 100% proud to be against such an abhorrent, disgusting, horrible cult. They're a cult. It's a psychotic, disgusting cult. And it starts with the Brit Milah. It starts with the circumcision where the moil fucking puts his mouth, sucks on the bloody baby dick after circumcision. And circumcision is the most important number one tenet in the Jewish religion. It's the number one most important thing. That's why the women are so second class, because they don't get circumcised. But if you want to tell me anything I'm getting wrong, I'm all ears. Instead of sounding all childish, tell me what I'm getting wrong. It's interesting how this is the only shit that ever really happens. It's like you're totally unprepared for this conversation. So why get involved? Why put yourself in it? If somebody can tell me why I should give a shit about this one cult over any other cults, I'm all ears. It's mainstream. You can say, so now you're just repeating shit. Where is it mainstream? What mainstream source pumps Jew hate? What are you even talking about? I mean, it's stupid in American culture. Again, don't know what you're talking about. American culture is Christian. Christians believe that Jews are God's chosen people. See, the problem is you're not dealing with your average goyim here. I actually know this shit. Nothing I'm saying is wrong. And the reality is I'm proud of my anti-Semitism because I know what words mean. You know, if you were to say I'm anti-Semitic, I'm going to be offended because Semitic refers to all of the people of the region. Palestinians, Lebanese, Syrians, Iranians, Iraqis, even Egyptians and Moroccans and shit. Even black people are considered Semitic people. So if you said I'm anti-Semitic, that's against that region, and I'm not. Yes, even Israelis are Semitic. Semitism means you show Jews, you believe in or practice showing Jews favor. And Jews shouldn't get any favor. Why should anyone get favor? Semitism is a horrible thing. Semitism is supremacy. Favor is supremacy. Telling people that they have to give your group favor is supremacy. And I am proudly against all forms of supremacy, especially your bullshit. So again, why don't you be a big boy and try to actually make an argument here instead of just saying dumb nonsense? You know, Jew conformity is everywhere in American culture. American culture is all about conforming to Jew needs. Thankfully, the worst generation, Generation Z, oh, they're terrible. Thankfully, this generation, where you have it's amazing how the Jews that control the news aren't actually telling the full story. Because you have, the kids that go to Harvard, Yale, Columbia, these are the kids of the richest and most powerful people in the world. Your average fucking my kid's not going to Harvard, you know? Like these aren't just regular people. These are the elite's children are at these schools. And this Generation Z, the worst generation, is the first one to actually stand up to Israel. These kids are the ones out there standing out and saying, no, fuck that. We're not going to fucking keep silent. This is genocide. And then you have Jews like Rappaport and John Lovitz and Jerry Seinfeld. You have all these idiots, especially Rappaport, who are saying that the genocide is Judaism. So if you oppose the genocide, then you oppose Jews. They're the ones making it about the Jews. They're not the ones, they're not saying, yes, as much as we support Israel, we're not okay with genocide. No, they're the ones saying genocide and Judaism go hand in hand. And it's got to be terrifying for them to know that the next generation isn't going to be sucking their dicks like they want them to be. It's fucking beautiful, man. And you notice how you're not hearing anybody talk? All those protests, they stopped for the summer, but they're still happening right now. It's just not being talked about by the news. And how come you're not seeing, you're not seeing the parents out there celebrate, out there protesting with their kids, but you're not seeing the news interviewing all these famous and high-level people about what their kids are doing. And you're not seeing those same people condemning their kids. There's just nothing. Because they know they can't go interviewing all these people's parents. Because these people are going to side with their fucking kids. The only people that ever get interviewed during that shit are the Jews, the goofy Jews who are like, man, we don't like what they're saying and it's interfering with our schoolwork because they're saying they don't like the genocide that's happening. And we keep going out there and yelling at them and they don't back down when we yell at them. You're seeing that, or you're seeing the occasional plant where they're like, hey, why are you out here protesting? And the girl's like, I don't even know. Because, of course, they're going to show us that bullshit. They're never going to interview the kid with the microphone who wants to be heard. What are you out here for? Can we talk? That's not happening. They'll never, ever, ever give me a platform and have me go against 5 of the smartest rabbis they have. And let us all let us have it out. Let me see if they can convince me that they're not just a psychopathic bullshit cult. Nope, never happened. They don't have that confidence. I have confidence. Knowing that what I'm saying is the true truth, is the good truth. I'm full of confidence. I welcome anybody that wants to challenge me. For some reason, those rabbis don't have that same confidence. Gee, I wonder why. Aquaman, what's going on? Notice how James Diamond got real quiet, didn't he? Where you at, Jimmy? Always interesting how the Jews have nothing to say. I didn't get this way because I was born this way. I was raised in the same society everybody else was, told I'm not allowed to talk about the Jews, good or bad, just don't talk about them. I eventually learned how to be this guy. So that means my mind can be changed. So I became this guy. I can become somebody else. If I'm wrong about being this guy, then by all means tell me and tell me how I'm wrong, and we'll move on. I'll try to be something else. The problem is none of you are ever, capable. Look at the opposition I've received. The only thing that people do is they express what level of the system they believe in. And then when you point out that it's no different than saying you believe in Jesus because you're just believing a different story, they get mad and run away. Happens every fucking time, man. Every time. It's the craziest shit. Can you believe how difficult it is for me to find a reasonable argument, a reasonable opponent? Just let's be honest with each other. Let's talk. You say what you got to say, and I'll read it, and we'll go back and forth. I don't understand. How else are we supposed to get better? How else do we evolve? How else do we change? If we're not willing to be wrong, how else do we get better? I'm willing to be wrong. Are you? I was wrong my whole life, thinking I wasn't allowed to talk about the Jews. Thinking that saying Jew is a bad word and it's on the same level, and it's like nigger and blah blah. But see, at the same time, nigger is just a Jew trick. Nigger is some MK Ultra shit, where the Jews, MK Ultra, the best, the most impressive thing MK Ultra ever did was convincing us they disbanded MK Ultra. MK Ultra still exists. The government didn't just get real good at mind control and then stop doing it because we found out. You can't be that stupid to think that's what happened. MK Ultra is just a much larger thing now. And one of the greatest tricks they ever did was convincing black people to commit crime, to put themselves in a position to where they fill the prisons that the Jews own, to commit crimes at the utterance of a word. If you know anything about MK Ultra, it's that whole, you're at home doing whatever, and then the phone rings and hello, and somebody utters the phrase, the ducks fly south when it's Tuesday and it's raining, or something, and it flips you into a robot mode, and you're Sirhan, and you go shoot Bobby Kennedy, and then come to and go, holy shit, I clearly I did the shooting, I just don't remember. I was at home cleaning, and then suddenly I was sitting there over the body. I don't know what the hell happened. That's MK Ultra, right? Well, think about it. Black people have been, they need to fight. Like they're not doing the right black stuff. They're not being black enough if they don't fight some dumb white person that desperately calls them a nigger. Because the only time a white person says that is when they can't say anything else. They've run out of things to say, and now they want to get you upset. They want you as upset as they are, so they're going to scrape the bottom of the barrel and say that word that most people, the N-word, and they've convinced you to fight if you hear some white person say nigger. Do you know how stupid you are if you do that? Probably stupid enough to, wear a big long t-shirt, looks like a dress, and sag your pants like they do in jail to show they take it in the butt, and wear a nose ring and earrings, and, be as, feminize you as much as possible. That makes you a thug. You're a thug. No, I'm not a nigger. I'm a nigga. I'm a proud nigga. I'd rather be an Nigga. Lassane Parrish said that. Gotta listen to Lassane Parrish. Don't know if you ever saw those interviews of a young Lassane Parrish in his Juilliard dance school or whatever. You know, when him and Jada Pinkett were in the same prestigious fucking dance school. You know, before he became a backup dancer for Digital Underground. And we all know that background dancers in the 80s and 90s, they weren't gay or anything. Tupac, think about this. Every single man out there, right? If you were famous and you could bang all the hot famous chicks, wouldn't you be like John Mayer and you'd have this long fucking wake of hot famous chicks that you've also banged along with a bunch of other hot chicks? Like when you had the opportunity, especially if you're in your 20s, isn't that what all of you would do? How come there's not that with Tupac? How come the only time you can guarantee Tupac had sex with someone is when he got arrested because he was raping that chick in her butt while forcing her to give oral to his buddy? Remember? Your buddy Tupac, your buddy Lassane Parrish? Of course I'm not wrong. I don't talk about shit that's wrong, dude. Tupac is the biggest fucking, one of the biggest plants ever. Ever. And when they got, when that character was running dry, they just killed the character, not the man. The man's been seen way too many times. I just don't understand what's empowering about using a word that has kept your people down for more than 200 years. Explain it to me. Because you've been convinced that by saying nigga instead, you're taking the power away from the word. Not realizing that you're giving the word power by believing that. But see, again, we don't ask questions like how did Spike Lee, goofy ass, sure looks like a Jew to me, light skinned, skinny little fucking yucky, gross Spike Lee, how did he become the voice of black people? Where did he get that opportunity from? Well, go look into it. He just sort of appears. He just sort of appears and he's given this green light to do what he wants. And then that movie, Do the Right Thing, comes out. And this thing is praised as like this great. That movie sucks. That movie is awful. And it, the stepping on shoes means you got to get in a fight thing. That's from that movie. The walking around with the radio and not giving a shit what anybody else thinks. That's from that movie. The your mom jokes. That's from that movie. They were just programming people. And because there weren't a lot of those movies, you were told that Spike Lee is this proud Africa black director. He's pushing he's Spike Lee, yo. He was given this super platform and you were told that if you didn't listen to Spike Lee stuff, you're not black enough. The worst thing you can say to a black person is that you're not black enough. Oh, you speak too well. You sound like you're educated. That's not black enough. Do you know who will fight me the hardest if I say there was no such thing as slavery? You know who gets the maddest when you say slavery never happened? It's just a lie. Black people. Why do black people want to have been slaves so badly? This is all MK Ultra bullshit, man. That's all this is. They've tricked us into thinking some of the dumbest things possible. And again, it's all in an effort to keep us from focusing on them. Just don't talk the truth about us. Do you realize most people think on the level of nigger If you say Jews have all the money, the power, and the control, that's like the same thing. That's racist. Don't say that. Don't say that Jews have all the money and the power and the control. That's a horrible thing to say. Are you fucking insane? That's a compliment. You make up 0.183% of the world's population and you have all the money, the power, and the control? That's amazing. That's fairy tale bullshit. However you achieve that is fucking amazing. And the only reason you wouldn't want people to talk about that is if you had sinister motives. Because what it means is if they do have all the money, the power, and the control, that means the way the world works is by design. And those people that have all that money, power, and control could make the world work differently if they wanted to. But because they have to keep the conflict going, or else the show gets reset again, they keep us in this fucking horrible position. I hate to say it like that. I hate to, at the end of the day, wrap it up and be like, well, they're kind of doing the right thing to keep us where we are, because if they didn't, you know what happens when the news is doing a story on the side of the road? South Park flat out told us. South Park told us the truth. They just made it stupid so people will be like, oh, well, that's just South Park. But South Park showed us the Earth Gets Canceled episode. And that we're just a fucking network. We're just a TV show. We're one of many. But they made it look like it was in space. And the joke, they had the wrecking machine come up and beep, beep. And it's in space and it's smashing. That's the joke. But it's all just reset stuff. So I just happened upon your live. What is your name, bud? And why are you so passionate about the black community? Just curious. Knowledge is power. My name is Guy Williams. I think that's on there. You should find me on the Facebook if you want to. I'll put the link in the description. I forgot to do it before I went live, so it'll be there afterward. I highly suggest you share my shit on Facebook. But I'm half black. We're talking about half of my people. So, of course, I'm going to be passionate about how we've been made fucking stupid. How I'm embarrassed by my own people because we've been made into these fucking modern day blackface clowns. But it's just a piece. The bigger piece is the Jew part. The Jews are the ones that did that. The Jews are the ones that like when you look at rap music, it's always blamed on black people, but if it weren't for Jimmy Iovine and Jerry Heller and shit like that, there wouldn't be Interscope. There wouldn't be a Dr. Dre and all that other bullshit. The Jews did that. The Jews, and they didn't realize it would cross into the white community like it did. And at the same time, of course they did. That's why they gave NWA carte blanche to fucking get on their truck with their guns, and when everybody got home from school on Yo MTV Rap, flipped on Yo MTV Raps, they saw these cool black guys riding around with fucking AK-47s and shit. Oh, that's so cool. And for everybody that didn't fall for the fucking the rap side of things, they did the same thing with country music. Do you realize the redneck is a Jewish creation? It is. If you go back to the early days of bluegrass, so back in like the 20s and shit, apparently they had radio stations that could broadcast across the country. But the owners of those stations, like all these Jewish artists came down from the north. These classically trained Jewish artists came down from the north because bluegrass was just taking off like wildfire. And they wanted a piece of that money, money, money. So when they would come down, the people in charge said, listen, we'll let you do it, but the only way you can do it is if you become the Soggy Bottom Boys. you got to put some black on your teeth, and you got to frumple up your hair, and put on the blue jeans, and you got to play the mountain bumpkin play. We won't let you play bluegrass in a suit and all that. You got to put on the character role. And they created that whole mountain people, bluegrass, hickey, y'all, ding, 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 ding. If you look at there's a video that was made in the 1980s, like early 80s, and it's made at Rikers Island. And if you're not looking at it, other than the black guys that talk like this, which aren't very many, you can't tell the difference between the black guys and the white guys. Everybody sounds the same. The black guys aren't talking about, yo, my mother and my brother, they went to the store, yo, son, kid, what's up, son, done, son, kid, my mother and my brother. They didn't talk like that. They weren't talking about, yo, in these streets, I got this strength in this streets, and they weren't, none of it. We were all, relatively the same. It was okay. We could communicate with each other. No, I got my her, and it's in the I got my her in the and look at them stars up there. And, now we can't even communicate with each other on purpose, because the Jews who gave the record contracts out, it's like in the 60s and shit. All those white bands, they absolutely created the hippie, right? Because after World War One, the average person, they had all these people, these families where the soldier had come home from war, and he was all fucked up. He was this alcoholic, beating his wife, and prior to, it was just the kid and his mom, and they had grown up, and it was years, and they had a good relationship, shit like that. And then dad came home, and he was a motherfucker. He was all fucked up from the war. So the generation that then grew up that had those parents, they were absolutely opposed to the war. They were opposed to World War II. They were opposed to all that shit. They were opposed to Vietnam, all of it. Well, and actually, it's the World War, sorry, I said World War One. The World War II kids, sorry. The World War II kids were the ones that were opposed to Vietnam. They didn't want anything to do with it. The system, the Jewish think tank sat around and thought, okay, how can we do this? Because it was the intellectuals. It was the kids that grew up and became doctors and all these other things. They were like, man, war is crazy. What are you, nuts? We're not doing that again. Look at how our parents all came home. And so they had to figure out a way to switch the public opinion. So they sat around and they were like, what are the most undesirable qualities? Well, long hair and loud colors and dirties and drugs and sex. Oh, God, they're having sex. Oh, let's create this hippie character. And they you have all of these, like Jim Morrison's dad. It's the Laurel Canyon conspiracy, but Jim Morrison's dad was the admiral on the ship used in the Gulf of Tonkin. Crosby, Stills, Nash. Like Crosby and Stills, both of their dads worked in mind control with the US, with the government, and Crosby was, of the long line of Crosbys from, way back, like old money Crosbys. Stills and Nash, I don't know if I said it right, but Stills and Nash had the military dads. Like a lot of these people that had, like most of us, when we think about being a rock star, right? You have it in your head that, you get in a van and you go around and you make a name for yourself, and then you eventually get discovered. Well, think about how were they doing that the 50s and shit. How was anybody driving from town to town, booking gigs, getting paid, all that, and then building a name for themselves. Even the Doors movie, they show how the Doors just sort of they start practicing, they just start getting gigs at all the big fucking venues on Sunset, and that's just it. They just do, because it's all manufactured. All those guys were, all those kids, a lot of those kids are garage bands, just glorified garage bands. You ever hear Crosby, Stills, and Nash live? They sound like shit, and shit live. A lot of those guys, they sound like just glorified garage bands live. But the studio, the Laurel Canyon studio that they all made their records in, was like the extra band member that nobody knew about. And the Laurel Canyon studio was a government studio that rivaled anything in Hollywood. It was a military studio up in the Hollywood Hills. And all of these guys came from that area. And you have to ask yourself, like, who gave them the record contracts? How were they just discovered? Riding around in a van, that doesn't work. And when you look at it, most of the big acts that ever make it to the prime, they didn't do that. They maybe played a few venues in their town and then they were just sort of discovered. They weren't toughing it out in a van. Only one I can think of that I know for sure did that is like Dave Matthews, the South African guy. But everybody else, man, like when you look at where these things came from, it's all manufactured. And like I was saying, the redneck character is just another one. That show, Hee Haw, the longest running, like one of, if not the longest running sketch comedy show, well, one of the longest at least. Maybe prior to Saturday Night Live. But Hee Haw ran forever. And Hee Haw was a bunch of Jews pretending to be fucking rednecks. Pushing all the dumbest fucking redneck stereotypes you can think of. The people in the South didn't talk like that. There are a lot of people in the South that have that regal accent, even if they are asking you, sir, may I please trouble you for $1? That man, I ain't never gonna go over there and gonna see that there thing over there, ding dong. Larry the Cable Guy, that guy doesn't talk like that. All that shit's manufactured, you guys. They did the same. They made niggers out of black people and they made niggers out of white people. They did it. They made us ignorant. The country, the redneck, like it's amazing how bad the thug is in our culture, and compared to the redneck, how the redneck is celebrated. The redneck is literally the same fucking thing. All about them guns and drinking and there. I mean, it's the same shit. To the point where the music is now bleeding together. You listen to country music now, and a lot of it has a lot of rap undertones. Who's doing that? Who did that to us? Guys, this is it's all right here. It's all easy to see. And the thing is, I don't think I'm saying anything that, I mean, sure, there's some things I'm saying that maybe you hadn't thought about like in a long time. But you're going, you know what? I thought about that before. All this shit is stuff everybody already knows. We all know this shit. We all see it right in front of our fucking faces. Black people have been manufactured into some of the worst, like, God, these new generations of black kids are just so awful. One thing I see all the time, they walk down the middle of the street. And then they get all shitty if you honk at them. Like they're supposed to be there, not the cars. You see it, the way that black women have been manufactured into just these horrible, horrible characters. It's embarrassing. It sucks. I hate it. what it means to be black. That's racist. The whole black community idea is racist bullshit. We are one community. When you have Trump talking about black unemployment, how is black unemployment different than unemployment? And when Trump says, the Mexicans coming across the border illegally, they're taking the jobs away from black people and other Mexicans. What the fuck is he talking about? Well, black people and Mexicans are the only ones that are out there picking strawberries and shit. I guess I don't know. Like, it's crazy how, like, this is the most openly racist I've ever seen a political thing. Like, I mean, unless you go back to, like, 100 years ago, seems like I always say they're stupid. The Jews that control us are stupid. We're the creative ones. Every time the Jews try to be like, oh, we can run Hollywood without the goyim, we get those dumb, those ages of Hollywood where they just remake dumb movies, or they all those spaghetti westerns and shit like that. Like, that are just the space movies and shit. Those were all we don't need the goyim. We can make movies without them. They're not creative. They're stupid. They're the people behind Chat GPT and the soldiers lining up and running at each other. And, like, that's who created all this bullshit. That's who created this Jesus narrative. Are you kidding? You know how stupid that is? Cut your dick narrative. Are you fucking kidding me? They're stupid. And so it almost seems like they're given this playbook that they really don't know how to deviate from. And so that's why everything seems like it's in cycles, because they keep going back to the playbook. What worked in the past, they're hoping it works now. But it's not working. I'm really worried about the whole 100-year cycle and the 29 depression that they're going to bring about and shit like that. Like, they like that 100-year cycle thing. Is that going to happen again? Are we going to let that happen again? It shouldn't. It definitely shouldn't. They're going to fake another Dust Bowl. It's all, when you start questioning things, and if it's funny, because a lot of people say things like, it's all lies, or, it's all bullshit. But then when you start talking to them, you realize they only mean certain things are bullshit. The things they don't like. They're not keen on saying the things that they like are bullshit too. And that's the real challenge with this, is we have to learn to apply that it's all bullshit to everything. Everything. The whole history narrative is bullshit. They're lying. They're lying, they're hiding things, and all that. And the reality is, if we want to stop the pedophiles in the church, if we want to stop the pedophiles in Hollywood, if we want to stop the tyrannical government, if we want to stop the lies about the earth, or find out what the truth is about the earth shape, if we want to stop the wars all over the place, we have to unify and go after the Jews. That's it. They're the ones that are behind everything. So instead of us focusing on the what of the problem, we need to focus on the who. And if the who is the same in every problem, then let's focus on them first, and then we can fix all the rest of the problems. It's funny, Mel Gibson sure got in a lot of trouble, didn't he? Do you guys even know what the fuck Mel Gibson said? You know what my favorite is? My favorite is Kanye and Cat Williams. Right when they needed him to. So when Kanye comes out, so the thing about Kanye West is, if not for the Jewish media, we wouldn't have known about what Kanye tweeted. How many of you follow Kanye's tweets? How many of you give a shit about what Kanye West is tweeting every once in a while? The whole thing with the drink champs was actually like a year earlier. So clearly nobody cared about it until the Jewish media told us to care about it. The only reason anybody talked at all about Kanye and what Kanye said and blah is because the Jews told us to care about it. And so you have Kanye who says three things. He says, I'm going DEFCON 3 on the Jews, which is just some nonsense threat. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Going DEFCON. Let's see, it's definitely a con, and it's your third one. So the Taylor Swift thing was one, and then the George Bush thing. George Bush hates black people. You realize Kanye West on live TV during a telethon where black people were being called refugees after one of the worst disasters to hit the United States and the blah, blah, blah. Kanye West said, the sitting president, George W. Bush, does not care about black people. And that didn't get him canceled. But Kanye saying, I'm going DEFCON 3 on the Jews. Oh boy. So Kanye showed us three things, right? Kanye showed us that we're not allowed to make threats against the Jews, even if it's vague, stupid threats like DEFCON 3. Kanye said, I can say anything I want about the Jews. That's the second thing. So Kanye showed us, no, you can't. The third thing Kanye did was tell the truth and said, everyone in Hollywood has Jews within their contracts. Now, the smart person, the smart group, would have taken that and said, yeah, you know what? There are a lot of Jewish people that work behind the scenes to provide everyone an equal platform to express their art and music and whatever. We work really hard behind the scenes to provide a platform everyone of all races can use, and we're really proud of that. They could have said that, but instead, just like with everything else, they never deny anything. No one denied it. What they do is tell us we're not allowed to say that. So the three things Kanye did was Kanye said, you know, a threat, I can talk about the Jews, and here, let me tell you, and let me expose to you the system. And he was supposed to be a warning to people like me. Because while Kanye was doing that, they were illegally putting Netanyahu in office. Now, granted, he was overwhelmingly voted, majority voted in by the psychopathic Israeli people. Can't just blame that. Like, you can't just blame the leaders when they're voted in. But while we were focused on Kanye saying these things, they were putting a man who was under indictment. He's under indictment, just like Trump. He's under indictment. They were putting him in charge, along with what they were calling the most conservative, supremacist group of leadership that Israel's ever seen. The openly supremacist guys. One of the guys, it's either Bezalel Smotrich or Itmar Ben-Gvir, I can't remember. I think it's Ben-Gvir, actually, has actually spent time in prison for citing violence against Arabs. Like, he's a fucking horrible human being. And so is Bezalel Smotrich. And so is Avi Moaz. All these guys that are in this coalition that was put in charge while Kanye was distracting the American people, literally, like, providing everybody kept saying, oh, Kanye's gonna suicide. I was like, nah, Kanye ain't doing shit. Kanye's doing his job. Kanye's telling us that there's a lot of Jew stuff that's about to really happen, and we aren't allowed to talk about it, because if they can take $2 billion away from that rich, powerful man in one day, What could they do to some dumb goyim like me? And at the same time, Kyrie Irving, one of the best basketball players at the time, one of the best money makers for the Jews that own the team, he posts a link to a video. He doesn't say anything, doesn't say, hey, everybody, check this out. He doesn't say, oh, this is a Jew video, but he doesn't say anything. He just posts the link. And the link is to a video that none of us would have ever seen if not for the Jews getting all mad at Kyrie and because I don't follow Kyrie. I couldn't really care less about Kyrie. I know what that movie is because I wanted to know what the big deal was and looked up what was the movie that Kyrie put out. And the movie is a movie called From Hebrew to Negro, and it's about how black people are actually the real Jews, the true Jews. So, you have all these coincidental stories. You have Kanye talking about Jews. You have Kyrie, who posts this thing talking about how blacks are think about that. Jews are the ones that are offended by that. Are you serious? Are you saying black people, ew, were the real Jews? Oh my God. That shouldn't be a problem. Why would that be such a big problem? If somebody makes a video, especially if it's wrong, why would they get so upset about it? But Kyrie is a warning to the people like you watching my video, right? For all of you that would dare to share my link, you don't even have to say anything. You just share the link. Kyrie made them money. Cost them money and made them money. Was suspended for 8 games and shit. Maybe longer. Kyrie, the guy that also happened to be the guy that got in trouble because he wouldn't take the vaccine. He's that thing for all of you guys who share the video. Now, just in case you didn't put it all together, it just happened to work out. Now, talk about coincidence, huh? Just happened to work out that the Saturday after all this happens, of all people, Dave motherfucking Chappelle is hosting Saturday Night Live. Oh my God, what a coincidence. Almost like it's scripted. Because Dave comes out and does one of the greatest opening monologues you'll ever see. And he starts it off by taking out a piece of paper and says, just a heads up, I support all of my Jewish friends in Israel and I don't want anybody to take all my money away from me. And that's a joke. But he says his little pledge to the Jewish people. And then he goes on to say, the 2 things, I've been in Hollywood for a long time, and the 2 things you don't say, the 2 words you ever say and anything good ever comes afterward is the and Jews. And Dave proceeds to lay out the narrative about how Kanye fucked up and how, yeah, Jews do control everything, but you're not supposed to talk about it. And he's just getting, laughter after laughter after laughter. And then at one point he says, but I do have to say one thing. The Jews can't blame black people for what was done to them. And the crowd goes dead silent. And Dave gets this weird face, and then somebody in the back goes, yeah. And Dave goes, yeah, see, he gets it. And then everybody laughs, ha, 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 ha. But when he said the Jews can't blame black people for what was done to them, everybody got silent. Isn't that interesting? And he made a couple jokes about Trump. And he made jokes about Kanye and Kyrie. And he wrapped it up real nice. So if anybody was wondering, it was all told to you right there. And this was all taking place while Netanyahu and his cronies are being put in office. Because you're always being distracted. They do that shit with everything. those who you cannot criticize, those who you cannot question. Exactly. That's exactly it. You've been live for like 7 hours. Get off the mat, bro. Go eat something. Go to bed. Right, right. I should go to bed at 12 noon because that's what you do. And it's been 3 hours. And you know what the best part is? It's 3 hours and it's not a bunch of uh uh wasting time, and it's that truth. When truth is being said, it just flows. It comes out. And the funniest thing is, if I've been live and been such a problem, how come you can't say anything about anything I'm talking about? How come you just keep trying to prevent me from talking? Why does it affect you in any way? What's the matter with you? Did I say something that bothers you, or did point to where the guy hurt you? Come on. It's interesting, man. It's all right there for you to see. If I'm wrong, I'm comfortable with it, man. If I got something wrong, you let me know, and I'll be like, oh shit, I guess I got that one wrong. I just don't think that's gonna happen. So I wish this dumbass hadn't come on and said that, because I was literally getting ready to bail, and now I feel like I can't bail because I don't want to let this guy think he matters. But I'm gonna go ahead and bail. I appreciate everybody being here. I can't believe my fucking. I'm gonna pay for this so badly. So, by the way, go into the description. Go to the description. There'll be a link to the website. Go to the website and get your free download. It's music. You might like it. Anyway, everyone have a good day. See, it's so hard to jump off when the numbers are 6. But what do I got shit to do? So, everyone have a great day. Fuck Israel and pedophiles, you kill yourself.